Hey everyone, and welcome to the NintendoFuse Podcast. This is episode 304, and it's our Games of the Year episode for 2024. We're recording this live on December 3rd, 2024, and we're so glad to have you here for the Game of the Year episode. My name is Steve. Of course, I'm joined by Barry and Greg. Barry, you excited for this?
Yeah, I look forward to this every year. This is my favorite episode.
Yeah.
I look forward to being able to share great games with everybody, discover new games, and hopefully other people get to discover games they might have missed because 2024 was pretty packed.
Yeah, for sure. Greg, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. It's been obviously a fun few weeks here, and it's great to finally be back on an episode. And as Barry said, it's the one. It's like the Christmas is early. It's like the one to talk about all the great stuff from the year. So,
yeah, for sure. And as I'm seeing already, the chat is lighting up, and you guys are collectively our fourth member of the podcast crew. And so be sure to let us know all the different thoughts that you have in there. Especially let us know your Game of the Year thoughts. So when we get to that point, definitely let us know what you think about the Games of the Year and the different categories that we're going to be talking about. We'll get into that in just a little bit later in our podcast. But yeah, be thinking about your picks for this year. We'd love to feature them as we read through those as well. But if you are new to the podcast, please be sure to follow us on social media. We're at NintendoFuse on most social medias out there. And then also we have a growing Discord community that we would love for you guys to jump in as well. The link is going to be on the screen in the video version, but also in the podcast show notes and the YouTube description on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we are streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. So hey to everybody that's joining us. We see Kajimi Kassen, Blake's in there, Jesse Glenn. We see Mo Knows, we see Jakester, we see Aaron. I think that's it so far that everybody said hi. So thank you guys for joining us. And yeah, pretty excited for this. This is Blake's, or not Blake. I just saw him and he said, "Hey, Greg." So it popped in my head again. This is Barry's like anniversary episode. Like that's kind of easy to remember because you joined in a Game of the Year episode. So it's kind of like every year it comes around, it's your anniversary episode.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're going to jump into all of that in just a little bit, but we thought it'd be fun to still include some aspects of a regular episode. We're going to skip over what games we've been playing, just because we're going to talk a lot about the games we've been playing all year long. But we're going to hit some headlines here at the beginning. And first, we're going to throw it over to Greg to kick us off.
All right. So apparently Nintendo's updated the official Zelda timeline. So Echoes of Wisdom had come out earlier this year, and that's the one that has just been officially placed. It's been added to the Fallen branch, and it's just after Triforce Heroes, the 3DS game, and then it's just right before the NES Legend of Zelda in the Fallen timeline. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are still noted to be not really present in the official timeline and almost like a separate one or somewhere that's far down the line. But it's nice to see that they're still kind of updating the timeline with the most recent game here.
And speaking of games and placing them in weird places, Triangle Strategy, which came out from Square Enix and published by Nintendo in the United States and I believe everywhere in the West, has been delisted digitally, and that is because the rights have gone back to Square. So we've seen this before. It's very likely that Square Enix is going to put it back on and probably bring Triangle Strategy to other systems. So if you do want to play it right now and you didn't download it, there's always the physical. So just keep that in mind.
Well, speaking of publishing rights and all that sort of thing, if you're a NASCAR fan and you like the NASCAR games, they're going to be actually delisted as of December 31st of this year because Motorsports Games has announced that that they're taking it off because of the ownership of the NASCAR license is changing. And so NASCAR Rivals, NASCAR Heat Ultimate Edition Plus, and NASCAR Arcade Rush are all going to be hopping off the digital content as of December 31st, and we'll see what happens after that.
And good news, starting today, you can just download the Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete. So this is like the full thing with all the different updates that was across Animal Crossing Pocket Camp throughout the years of service. And the original app has been kind of disabled from the app stores, and now you can do a one-time purchase for $9.99 to get Animal Crossing Pocket Complete, and also transfer over your data and continue playing to your heart's content.
And speaking of playing to your heart's content, NSO has gotten quite the update. Several games have come out or are coming out on the NES. Tetris is coming out on the 12th of December, so very soon, the original NES Tetris. The Game Boy has gotten Donkey Kong Land, Donkey Kong Land 2, and as of tonight, Donkey Kong Land 3. And if you do have a Japanese account, you could download the Japanese version of the Game Boy app, and you could play the Game Boy Color port that was never released in the United States for DKL3. And the Sega Genesis, they remember there's a Sega Genesis app that actually got an update with 3 games: Toe Jam and Earl in Panic of on Funkatron, Vector Man, and Wolf of the Battlefield Mercs have all been out. So great to see some NSO love. Will we get more before the end of the year?
And THQ has made some comments on the sales of Epic Mickey Rebrush, and they say that the sales are actually a little slower than they expected. It's kind of a slow start in the digital sales, at least, but it has been well received by the players who have actually played it. But I mean, in my opinion, I was kind of expecting that.
And sad and unfortunate news for Switch owners in China. It's already been announced that the Nintendo Switch online service and the eShop will be shut down in 2026. So that's not really the doom and gloom for everybody else around the world, but it just probably just due to some licensing issues, and also like there's rivalry between like Japan and also China itself. But I guess a lot of gamers in China already kind of sidetrack that by using like other like Asian accounts and whatnot, just because the massive censorship that's been going on, and that's probably likely due to this being shut down there as well.
And for all you Tetris 99 players, there's a brand new update happening this weekend, 12.5 to 12.9. There's a brand new Maximus Cup where you can get theme designs based on the NES original release of Tetris. So if you like to collect different themes in Tetris, this is free to unlock. You collect 100 points. And yeah, it's going live this weekend.
Nice. Lots of different news items. Nothing like, huge. I mean, maybe eShop shutting down in China is kind of a little out there. Let's go to the chat real quick and see what they're saying about all these stories. Looks like some people didn't realize. Jakester didn't realize that there was any NASCAR games at all, video games. But other people are like, yeah, NASCAR 99 on N64 was a fantastic game. People are raving about that one in the chat. I also enjoyed that one as well. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about all of these stories. And Greg, what do you think?
I guess that's almost sounds foreshadowing the way you say NASCAR 99, because maybe that's like the next gauntlet game that they do, because Tetris 99 and Mario Brothers 35 and all those other types fun. But obviously that's just fully kidding, because that's the N64 game, but it just found that strange just that it's like 99.
That's what we need. That's what we need, a Battle Royale NASCAR game. I would play it.
There you go.
But yeah, it's just obviously unfortunate news for any gamers in China with the Switch stuff already being shut down, because obviously we just went through the year with Wii and 3DS going offline. But yeah, I guess as I said, there's like other ways to circumnavigate that, and I think even I didn't really mention it in the actual headline, but I guess there's giving away some free digital code passes. Like Tencent is getting some different games. You can get like New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe and like some of these other different Switch games just you get like completely free or whatever, just as like a condolences for shutting down the services and updates or whatever. But yeah, Epic Mickey I did get a chance to play this year, and I thought it was also really good, but it's obviously rather unfortunate if the sales aren't quite living up to expectations. But I mean, it's kind of like a year full with other types of remakes, so I guess it's kind of understandable. If you've already played it, you might not want to just replay the same game, especially if you may not have enjoyed the Wii version. But I think the Switch one does it justice and a lot more fun. But there's that. Glad to see NSO getting plenty of love, and that was pretty cool that we were able to cover Donkey Kong Land 3 literally dropping like within minutes before the podcast. So that was pretty fun to cover that.
That's really
And then-
why we delayed our start tonight, because of that. Yeah.
We had to wait on those last minute headlines we've added
Had
in the last
nothing to
couple
do with me
episodes.
not being prepared in time. It was all because of we were waiting on Nintendo.
Precisely. Yeah, I don't know if I'll get the Pocket Camp complete, but it might be something I might look into, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm really in the market for another mobile game to cover. Obviously, the NASCAR and the Triangle Strategy delistings are kind of unfortunate, and hopefully they can get back up in a timely manner, but I guess only time will tell there. And then finally, and even as I mentioned in the headline, it was great to see that Echoes of Wisdom was officially placed on the timeline, because I know what the Breath of the Wild people were concerned, like, oh, do they even care about it anymore, because both that one and Tears are not really present on the ever-living timeline. So it's been a pretty solid group of headlines we covered this time.
Nice. Looking at the chat again, Jakester saying China will always be China, so picky. Don't get us like delisted from China there, Jakester. But then also Kajimi Kassen, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, is saying glad NES Tetris is here. I also downloaded Pocket Camp complete already. And I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I barely played Pocket Camp free. I'm not sure if I want to pay $10 for a game that's probably just going to end up hopping off my phone at some point anyway. Barry, what'd you think of these stories?
Yeah. So the whole thing with NASCAR games was kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And the triangle strategy thing I did expect, because it happened. I think it was Octopath Traveler it happened with. So Octopath is back. So it's a timed publishing thing. So that's to be expected. THQ comments about Epic Mickey. I played Epic Mickey Rebrushed. I really enjoyed it. And it sucks, but it's hard. I think it's hard when you do even a remake, because we're going to talk about there's a lot of games in 2024, so there's a lot of competition. As for NSO, I'm happy to see it's alive and kicking again. Great to get some games, even if they've been trickled out, but especially knowing now that all this stuff is going to the Switch too. Every NSO game they add is pretty much a Switch 2 launch title, as far as I'm concerned. So bring them on, bring them all on. And Echoes of Wisdom, I'm glad to finally know where they count it. I do have some discrepancies with their timeline, but that's because they've changed it after they announced it originally, and so take everything with a grain of salt. Just enjoy the game. Doesn't matter where it's placed. And as for Pocket Camp, like you, Steve, I've been debating getting it while it's $10, because it's $10 right now before it goes up to 20. I only booted it up to get bonus items in New Horizons when that launched. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, at least I have it preserved then if I ever want to play it, and it's only $10. So I don't know. I'm debating it too.
Yeah. I think the Zelda timeline is so wonky to me. I mean, like it's wonky to start with, and the fact that they keep like updating it, and then they put it in official books, and then they change it, and it's just like, I don't know about this anymore. So I've actually like stepped away from it. Like I honestly, I watched this trailer only because I wanted to find a good spot to like start it in the video version of the podcast, to make sure that we had a good spot to like show while Greg was talking about it. But I'm trying to like not even pay attention to it. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't, like, I'm going to have my own headcanon, and really that's all that matters. I think I know where different things fall, and I'm just going to go with that one. And then, the rest of the stuff doesn't really affect me. Animal Crossing, like I said, actually Kajimi said the same thing. Barely played it as well. No idea why I needed this complete version, but I did. And NSO updates are probably the biggest thing that stands out to me. It's so cool that we get Tetris, Donkey Kong games coming to Game Boy is so much fun. I played so much of Donkey Kong Land 2 on my Game Boy. Like it'd be really cool to kind of get back to that at some point. And you haven't had the Sega Genesis games. Like I love what the NSO has become. It's been really cool. We kind of pictured this in the beginning of like this Netflix, if you will, of classic Nintendo games, and that's what it's really becoming. And really cool and great that Switch 2 or next Switch or whatever will use that and just carry that catalog along, and they don't have to restart it again like we have in the past. So very, very excited about that. And Tetris 99, I don't play that anymore because I'm not good enough. But if NASCAR 99 comes out as a battle royale, I'm here for it. Hear that? Whoever owns the next, the rights to NASCAR now, like, you should come out with the new NASCAR 99. It's a battle royale, and I will play the heck out of that thing. All right. Well, it's time for some Game of the Year talk. Hope you guys are excited for this. Before we get into any of the picks we have, let's go ahead and share with you the direction we are going for this episode. So we're going to be sharing in order our best our top three picks from each of these categories. So we're going to talk about our best indie Switch games. So this is the games that are not the AAA games. These are ones that are indie games by price and by status and all that stuff. And then we're going to talk about our best third-party Switch games, followed up by our best first-party Switch games. And then we're going to talk about this is a new category this year, the best remake or port on Switch. These are old games that have been brought to Switch as a remake or a port that is an old game but has been ported over to the Switch, not a part of the original plan necessarily. This is like if it's been remade or just brought over to the Switch from the past. And then we're going to talk about the best game on a non-Switch system. So like that's just anything else like mobile, Xbox, PlayStation, PC. We'll talk about that. And then we'll have a little fun, talk about the worst games of the year that we played, and then finish it out with our overall Switch game of the year. And that's going to be how we talk about the games of the year. And then we'd love for you guys to drop all your thoughts and picks and everything in the chat or into our Discord as well. If you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, let us know down in the comments on YouTube. We'd love to hear them. But if you're joining us live, we'd love to be able to read those out loud in each of those categories as well. So that means next year we're going to have to be changing up the categories a little bit because there's hopefully going to have a next Switch system or next console for 2025. So we'll kind of have to revisit those and everything for next year. But we added the remake and the port one this year just because there were so many remakes and ports that we thought we need to add an additional category to highlight some of those this year as well. So, Greg, any thoughts on the overall categories or anything like that maybe I left out?
No, nothing additional. I'm just kind of interested to see where Barry lands because I know you're the only one that has all the knowledge and foresight on this episode. So I guess I'll have to see where maybe went wrong or something in Barry's eyes or whatever, and I can see where he went wrong, and it'll be a fun time.
Yeah,
always good. What I like to see is people in the comments like Aaron saying last year on a Nintendo console, which means a lot of ports and remakes. Good to have a separate category. And Kajimi said remake or port is a good idea. A lot of them this year. So see, that's why I suggested it because it really was a lot this year, and it's unfair to we want to highlight everything that we can.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is a year. I'm gonna say it ahead of time. Just get it out there. There's a lot of variety this year in our picks because I've seen it all, and we were anticipating that. So it's not really a big spoiler. We were anticipating a lot of variety in our picks this year, and you're going to get a lot of variety in picks this year. You're probably going to hear some surprises. You're probably going to hear some things that you expect. It's going to be a fun time to go through each of these. We're basically going to go third, second, do some honorable mentions, and then do our first. We'll go through the line, Greg, Barry, then me. And that's how we're going to attack this. If you've been here for a Game of the Year episode before, we're basically doing the same thing we've done before, just adding the new category for this year. Before we get started on any of our picks, Greg, what'd you think of this year in gaming?
Well, certainly, I think kind of honored with the new category. There were obviously exceedingly amount of remasters, but I mean that's because this is supposedly potentially the final year of the Switch already, because it's the Switch 2 is on the very horizon here, and we've already even mentioned that by name already, even if it's not the official name. But yeah, it was just a year covered with a lot of those different games, and I think that's might be one of the more competitive categories this time around, where some of the other, and obviously the indie ones is always pretty explosive. There's lots of great games there too, but I'm thinking that like the Nintendo first party one is probably one of the smaller lists that we'll have to go through this year with probably not quite as much competition.
Interesting. Barry, what'd you think?
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Greg said. I think this was a fantastic year, which is honestly incredible because last year was a fantastic year. And rarely do you have a follow-up year that is also really fantastic. That being said, with it being the Switch's final year, there were an exceedingly amount of ports and remakes. In fact, when I made my original list, to be honest, one of the titles that I had in another category when I was submitting, because we submit trailers, which you're going to see, I was doing the trailer and I was like finding a good one. And in the trailer, it was like a remake of this great. I'm like, oh my God, there's a remake. Hold on, I gotta move everything around. There were so many that there were some I didn't even realize were remakes. Um, but like Greg said, I think this is Nintendo had a good year this year. Just in general, we know they had 11 games, almost one per month. But they also had a lot of remakes and ports, so it is obviously cutting down the first party category significantly. But I think we're going to see still see some variety there. But what I like, and I've talked about this before, is I like it when we have a year where we're all picking things, where we have like 9 different games to talk about in each category, as opposed to Tears of the Kingdom comes out. Okay, we all knew Tears of the Kingdom was going to be at the top of our list, or at least close to the top. Which surprise it was. So I like that this is a year where we don't have that. Oh, this is a definitive yes. There's no definitive yes here, I don't think. I think we have a good variety, like Steve said, and I think that makes it an exciting year. And hopefully, if you're watching this, you find your next favorite game by our suggestions, and you also tell us your favorites, so maybe we find our next favorite through you.
Yep. And Mono says, "Oh, come on, guys! Every year is a great year for gaming." What was that one
Not
year?
every year.
What was that one year?
2016.
2016, the year that will live in infamy, where I decided to pick a 2-year-old game for my game.
Yeah, it was a bad year, but funny episode, but bad year.
It was a funny episode, but hey, the Game Awards keeps choosing 5-year-old games and put them up for Game of the Year. So I was just ahead of the curve on that.
DLC now.
Yeah. So we are not considering DLC in ours. Unless it really drastically changes the game. But Jixters, we don't talk about 2016. Aaron's 2016 was evil. Almost 10 years ago, which is weird.
I know. That was the last year for the Wii U. Poor system.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting thing. While I think this year was good for gaming, what I found out was the style of games and the games that came out this year, not many of them really got me going. I think this year was interesting. I think a lot of it has to do with the remakes and ports and stuff like that came. That just weren't really exciting for like brand new stuff coming my way. We saw a lot of really cool stuff on other systems, which was really exciting, and we'll get to that eventually. The things that like really got me excited tended to be on another console this year, so we'll get into all that as we get to our picks. And people are just unfortunately, talking about 2016 in the chat, so we'll let you guys go. But yeah, let's jump into our first category, and that's the indies. So we're going to go to our Nindies category, if you will. And Greg, I'm going to kick us off with number 3.
All right, so number 3, I'll just say the name right off the bat because here we are now. So it was a ranger that was revealed in one of the, I think it was the very first indie, like the indie world that we had this year. And this was a really cool puzzle type game where you just got to like kind of slide the tiles around, and then like even it kind of looped across the screen on different sides depending if you're going horizontally or vertically. So I had a ton of fun playing this little puzzler, and I don't know what it was about it. It just had a lot of charm and lots of cool things with it, and even like with the story and kind of navigating around and moving, finding ways to move objects around along with just solving the various puzzles that the game had to offer. So I did fully complete the game and had a very fun time doing so. So that was my number 3 pick, a ranger.
Nice. Barry, number 3.
So for me, my number 3 goes to a game that recently just came out too, called Carpathian Knight, starring Bela Lugosi. And this is a classic Castlevania style, like not Metroidvania, but classic. And as you go through, there's like 12 levels. There's stuff to collect. There's all this extra lore and history behind the castle and behind Dracula. And this time, Dracula is played by Bela Lugosi, as in the original Dracula from the original classic horror movie, which is really, really cool because it is officially licensed to use him. You get 2 different characters to play as. The levels are really, really diverse and interesting. Each one has a boss too, and the boss is definitely challenging. I had a lot of fun with this. I think this is one of those that will probably go under the radar, which is unfortunate. But I love classic Castlevania just like I do Metroidvania. So to see this come out and to be able to play through it, I had a lot of fun. So if you like classic Castlevania, you honestly cannot go wrong with this game.
Nice. Well, my number 3 goes to a game called The Plucky Squire. And like I love magical stories and things like that. The storybook characters pops into this 3-dimensional world in the pages of this book, and it's just a really, really fun story. And you'll go through and have a great challenges. But I love just the how they bring, when you bring a story to life, it just really gets me, and how they've done the art style, adventure kind of game, and it's really cool. Like, and I think that's one of the things that really put it at the top. One of the best indie games for me is they not only have a great game here, but it's innovative, like how they've told the story, and the fact that it really literally looks like this book came to life, and highly recommend it. So, Greg, number 2.
Yeah, so number 2 was another game that I think went with that same Nindy Direct that I mentioned earlier, and that is Animal Well. So it is like a full-on Metroidvania game where you're like this little like blob kind of thing, and has to go through and help a variety of different animals, and then you're like solving some little bit of a few puzzle, very light on the puzzles aspect on this one, but as like a Metroidvania, you get some new abilities to help traverse the land. And what's really unique about this one is you can actually conquer any of the areas in any order that you want. So it's not even a full-on traditional Metroidvania where you have to go backtracking through and discovering to find like there's not like a set order of the power, like the abilities that you get. This one you can kind of, the ability is offered right near the front of each area, so you can actually grab all 4 abilities and just go through the areas in any order that you want. So that was definitely one of my biggest highlights, and I really enjoyed playing through this one. And it was another game that I played through to completion and got just about the bulk of everything that I could possibly find. I think there was a very small amount of like extra optional power-ups that I missed in the full complete run, but I at least had a really fun time playing through it.
Nice. Barry, how about you? Number 2.
So number 2 for me goes to Drova Forsaken Kin, which is an action RPG where you are pretty much taken to the world of Drova, and you really have to figure out everything. You get different combat styles from two-handed to one-handed with a shield. You get crafting. There's a bunch of crafting involved. And you have resource gathering. You have to question whether the people you encounter are trustworthy or not. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of story, and the combat is not just push button to win. Like, you have to roll back, you have to plan, or you will get pretty much bombarded. You have to set traps, and it's just such a cool action RPG that I feel is kind of overlooked on the Switch, and it's honestly kind of a miracle that it came to the Switch because it is a very ambitious game. It's one of those that you could spend 400 hours if you really want to get deep into it and keep playing. And it took me by surprise and had a lot of fun with it.
Nice. Well, my number 2 pick is a game that kind of caught me by surprise, and that is Cat Quest 3. Because I did not play Cat Quest 1 or 2, at least very much. I think I played a demo, and that was about it. And I wasn't a huge fan. And then Barry and Greg said, "Hey, we're going to do this review. You better play Cat Quest 3." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go ahead and play Cat Quest 3." And wow, I was really surprised how much I enjoyed this game. I think they've improved it quite a bit over the last 2, and it was really, really fun 2.5D kind of swashbuckling adventure where at the beginning it was kind of confusing. I wasn't exactly sure what was going on, but once I finally get the hang of it, I had a blast with this game, and so it was my number 2. It's Greg, any honorable mentions and then your number 1?
Yeah, I got actually quite a few honorable mentions, and a number of them were different game chats that we actually covered. Like Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley was pretty cool. Berserk Boy was another one, and Iron Meat was another one that we more recently did, and then even a few others that I just picked up just because they seemed very interesting with the normal cat theme, like Little Kitty, Big City. And I didn't get a chance to do Stray yet, but I didn't think that would be able to make this list, so I didn't prioritize picking that up. So without further ado, it's my number 1 pick is a continuation of Steve's, and that was Cat Quest 3. So this was a game that I downloaded the demo because it looked like it would be a really fun, little Zelda-esque type style game, and I definitely wasn't really wrong with that opinion. I had a lot of fun going through with the little hero kitty and solving all the different problems across the land and doing all the different quests. And then I just had a complete blast with it. It even inspired me to chase down the first 2, which I beat both of them to completion on both of those. And then also I didn't want to put it in the headline section, but they actually released an update to Cat Quest 3 to add in some extra quests. And if you saw me online playing today, then that was me covering the new content that was just added to the game completely free. So there's a free in-game update that adds a few more side quests and items to find in the game. So I had a lot of fun with Cat Quest 3, and that was my number 1 pick.
Barry, what's your honorable mentions and your number 1 pick?
So like Greg, my honorable mentions, a lot of them do come from our game chats that we do over the year. So Saga the Moon Priestess, a fun little Zelda style game. Avoid Hope, a little horror platformer. Stacklands, which we had a lot of fun with Stacklands. Berserk Boy, Iron Meat, all great. Soko Penguin, I really enjoyed. Bzzzt, I really enjoyed. Snufkin as well, we did, and of course the forgotten lost game chat Kudzu. I really enjoyed Kudzu. That game chat is lost in the void, but I did enjoy it, so I had to throw a mention here. But my number 1, it seems we have our repeat here because Cat Quest 3 was my number 1 as well. I loved the first 2. I played them, when they came out. And when I saw Cat Quest 3, I was immediately hooked. I was waiting for it. And thankfully, we got some review codes, so we got to play it a little early. And I think I wound up beating it 100% before either of you even booted it up. Like I think I just sat there in one day and 100% of the game. I could not pull myself away. And thankfully, it was a weekend, so my wife was watching our son to assist. But wow, what a game! This is just, it improves on everything from the first 2 games. It's just a lot of fun. The sailing is fun. The exploration is fun. The quests are fun. I did not know about the new DLC, the free DLC, but that's awesome. So even more of a reason to check this game out if you have not played this yet. It is absolutely worth it. And there's a really good physical right now that has 1, 2, and 3 all on a cart. So if you're curious, that's the way to go. You get them all, one shot.
Nice. Yeah. And unfortunately, if you're watching the video version, you're watching the stream, and they're like, you saw the trailer. Yes, because this is a game that not too many trailers were actually released for this, and so I was like, we'll play the same one 3 times. Yeah, Cat Quest 3, great game. For honorable mentions for me, you guys mentioned as well, Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley. Really enjoyed that one as well. And then also Freedom Planet 2 was another great game that came out this year. Barry talked about Stacklands on my list of honorable mentions as well. Had a really, really fun time. I was really surprised by that game and at how much I enjoy it. I do recommend playing it on a bigger TV because when you're playing it on a handheld, it's too small eventually to track what's going on. And then another honorable mention for me was actually Greg's number 2 pick, Animal Well. Was also another great game. So I agree, Greg. It's a fantastic game as well. But my number 1 game goes to Bo Path of the Teal Lotus. I am a huge fan of these platformers that, as I told you earlier with Plecky Squire, a good graphical thing will pull me in. A good adventure will pull me in. I love the cultural references of this game, but also just the style, the platforming style. It's not too difficult, but it's really fun. And there's enough challenge there to kind of draw you in, but not overwhelm you. Different types of attacks and movements. And it just looks beautiful. And so if you are looking for a good platformer, I highly recommend Bo Path of the Teal Lotus as my number 1 pick for indies.
So, going to the chat quickly, I just want to say a lot of people mentioning Balatro, and I think we forgot to put this one little disclaimer at the beginning: is these are our picks of what we played. So, I've heard great things about Balatro. I haven't had a chance to play it. I don't think either of you have either, but shout out to it as well. I did want to mention I did post also on social media for other people to provide your favorites. Only one person responded, so shame on you all for not responding. But I do want to give credit to this person. He did it's Kevin or Kev Andre Cactus over on Blue Sky did it. He said Tavern Talk was the only indie that he played on Switch. So that's one we didn't mention, so I want to give a shout out there as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I think and then it is something that it was in my mind earlier before we started going through these, and I forgot to mention it as well. And just a little caveat to what Barry said as well. Like for the most part, we played these games. There's some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, like this is based on our experience. And I'll say for Balatro, I haven't played that game, and I'm not really excited to play it. It's a card-based game, and it's a roguelike, and like not my style. And so even if I had played it, I don't think it'd be on my list. But clearly, it's getting a lot of praise by a lot of people, but not my style. Greg, any thoughts about indies?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that Cat Quest 3 was only number 2 for you, Steve. I thought that we would have had a trifecta number 1, but
so close.
I also wonder if that was like a order like that you determined. Like, look at this, we could just roll the same trailer 3 times in a row, and no one will notice.
we might have bumped Cat Quest 3 down to 2 if Steve delivered on the promise of getting us those bow codes.
Hey, that was not my fault. Not my fault. I blame the publishers on that. I thought we were going to get codes for this. So have either of you guys played Bo at all?
Oh, no.
Well, you should.
Well, get us codes, Steve. Much.
You're expecting me to drop $60 on Xenoblade 3. You can drop $10 on Bo.
I got Cat Quest 3 for you, Steve. Okay, I don't want to hear it.
Thank you for the $5 game.
It's more than $5.
I'm just kidding. No, it's a great game for sure. What are people saying in the chat? You guys able to catch up on that? I know there's a lot of talk.
Tower was aggressively fun, which is another one that came out this year, and a lot of people playing Balatro. And shout out to Balatro.
Nice.
And a shout out to Raji. Raji didn't come out this year, but Blake's been having fun with Raji. A great game.
Cool. Yeah, looks like it's hard to keep up with you guys tonight. This is a lot of chat, which is awesome. But yeah, I overlooked it while we were going through, and yeah, people saying Animal Well was fantastic as well. Aaron played that one. A lot of people agreeing with Cat Quest that it's a great game. The I've not played the 2-player mode in Cat Quest 3 yet. I've only played it by myself, but yeah, and a lot of people are enjoying Blatro. Aaron says Pizza Tower as well, which I did not play it. But I remember it coming out, but I haven't played it yet. And Phil One Up Collects is in the chat. Hey, Phil. And also, all I played is things I can't talk about that I played. Okay. Don't break any embargoes there. All right. Well, I think it's time to move on to third party. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
Moving on to third party. And of course, we'll go to you, Greg, for number 3.
And noticeably absent, I didn't really play a lot of original third-party games, and there wasn't even any that I really could fit into this category that didn't overlap with the remake category. So number 3 is Blank.
Wow.
All right. That's quick. Barry, how about number 3?
So my number 3 came to one that came or goes to one that came out way back in January, and that's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is unfortunately is not making Ubisoft enough money. But wow, what a game! This is just a really good Metroidvania. And if you enjoy Metroidvanias, you enjoy the Prince of Persia series, you absolutely need to give this a shot. Definitely need some love so we can keep going, because wow, this game is just it's challenging in all the right ways, and the platforming is top notch, and it doesn't punish you if you fail. You can just keep trying, and the world is just exploratory. The whole temple that you're in is just creative and fun, and just a fantastic game. So if you haven't given this a shot, definitely do so.
Yeah. For number 3 for me, I'm going to go with Star Wars Hunters. It was a game that caught me off guard. I don't play it nearly as much as Barry does. But yeah, I really enjoy this game. I think, like we've said it on previous podcasts, it's cool to have different variety in there and get in there and play quick games. I'm all for like team-based combat kind of stuff is fun, and I'm a sucker for Star Wars. Yeah, I wish I got more time to play this more. But from what I have played, I've really enjoyed Star Wars Hunters. So, Greg, number 2.
Well, I guess it makes it a lot easier just to lead with I'm kind of tied with my third place entry, which is Blank. So excellent job, Blank. You did a very good job this year. You already got two of the top spots here.
I didn't know we were allowing tying in the same category. Wow.
Wow. Greg needs to play some third-party games.
Well, Barry, number 2.
My number 2 goes to a long-running franchise that had a phenomenal entry this year, which was Ys 10 Nordics. Just kind of going off with the Cat Quest stuff that we talked about before. Just this, what an action RPG this is. You have the nautical exploration with your ship. You have ship battles. You have locations that you can actually like take over and rescue. The combat is really unique, where you're tied to an.
Oh, he just dropped out. That's unfortunate time to drop out right in the middle of him explaining Ys 10. But I know he's a big fan of this game.
And it figures my thing would go out as I'm talking. Good old Firefox. But the combat is unique in the sense that you're tied to another character, so you can fight separately, or you can push a trigger and pull both characters together to do combo moves. It just works really well. The momentum, the movement, just the abilities. It's just a phenomenal game, and Falcom needs more love. Like, if you enjoy Zelda action combat, action RPG games, you really need to do yourself a favor and give this one a shot. This is probably right up there with Ys 8 and even better than Ys 9. Just what a phenomenal game.
Nice. It looks beautiful. And another game that looks beautiful is my number 2, and I was really surprised at how beautiful it looks on the Nintendo Switch, and that is Ace Combat 7 skies unknown. And so, yeah, I was very, very pleased with this game. And you're wondering if it's like, is this a remake or port or whatever? Actually, this was out for current consoles. We're looking at Xbox One and PS4 are included in the current set of consoles, and so that's why I put it here in the third party. And yeah, it's a fantastic story. It really drew me in, but it looks great. I am a sucker for flying games that hit it spot on. I had a blast with this game. And yeah, like I said, the story is great as well. The Top Gun DLC is reason alone to get this game, to be able to fly around in the Maverick stuff. But yeah, big fan of Ace Combat. And yeah, 7 is a lot of fun, great story, and some great action and as well. So yeah, Greg, moving back to you for any honorable mentions, which I'm guessing you have none, since Blank tied for third and second. But maybe some honorable mentions, and then you can move on to first.
Yeah, you pretty much took my line there. So Blank tied again for the list of honorable mentions to get even more points awarded to it. So I guess it's pretty easy just to jump into number 1, which is a game that I did purchase, but I haven't had a chance to play, and that is Life is Strange Double Exposure. So we are commonly known as the Life is Strange podcast, and definitely was looking forward to when they announced this earlier this year. And I pretty much have already got it all set to play, but I do need to go through and finish up 1 and 2 before jumping into this one, just to make sure that I'm on the right page for when the story starts or whatever for this one. So that's going to be on my playlist for like coming into this new year here, and possibly the rest of the month after I wrap up games that I'll be talking about a little bit later in the podcast.
Right. Life is Strange, top in the list for Greg. Barry, onto any honorable mentions, and you're first.
Yeah, I got some great honorable mentions, 2 of which have been talked about already. Star Wars Hunters, which I do enjoy. I still play daily. And Life is Strange Double Exposure. Phenomenal games. Also want to throw a shout out to Juanyan Sword 7, which worked remarkably well on the Switch. Very shocked that one did as well as it did. And Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, return to form from Monkey Ball. Really, really good game. But my number 1 for third party gives more love to Falcom. Two games in a year, and that's The Legend of Heroes: Trails Through Daybreak. Just if you are intimidated by the Trails of series, this is a great starting point. Again, there's multiple starting points. You're starting in a new city, new country, new cast of characters. There are crossovers, of course, because it is a living, breathing world, and all the games pretty much take place in the same world at different times. But you don't need that knowledge. You get to explore Calvard for the first time in this game. You get to really see what this RPG can do. And it if you like turn-based, it's turn-based. But if you like action RPG, it's also action RPG. It's a hybrid of both. It works exceptionally well. The story is fantastic. The world is fantastic. The cities, just the locales. It's a living, breathing environment. And if you have not tried these games yet, you are honestly doing yourself a disservice if you enjoy RPGs, because wow, what a game and what a series.
Nice. Yeah, if I was that big of an RPG fan, I feel like I definitely would jump in there, for sure. Which kind of gives you a little spoiler that I didn't pick that for my number 1. But it's in some honorable mentions in there, because I have some honorable mentions that I know are great games, but didn't really play, not really my thing. But I have some games like Life is Strange is in my honorable mentions as well. And then Shin Megami Tensei 5, Lego Horizon Adventures, Stray ended up doing pretty good on Switch. I was surprised. Unicorn Overlords, Formagia, Sonic and Shadows Generations, Super Monkey Ball, Banana Rumble as well. And really surprised that kind of got into this game a little bit is One Piece Odyssey Deluxe Edition as well. But looking over to my number 1 pick is a game that was already mentioned by someone, and that is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Yeah, probably like Barry's like smiling because he saw it coming. This was a phenomenal game. Man, I had so much fun with this game. It's challenging. It's got me stuck at different times when I look at this game. I'm like, how do I get beyond this spot? But it's a good kind of challenge that has really drawn me in. I'm again, like if you guys that have been sticking around the podcast for a while, I've said it already. I am a sucker for a solid platformer, a solid adventure game. Something that's going to really have some great combat, a fun story, and this has got it all. Plus, it looks really great. It's unfortunate that the team is kind of being disbanded because maybe it didn't do as well as it needed to or whatever, but Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a solid game, and that's why I gave it the number one spot for third party for me. So.
All right. According to Kev on Blue Sky, he put Unicorn Overlord, one we didn't mention, but yeah, I know a lot of people love Unicorn Overlord Vanillaware. I'm just not a big SRPG fan, so but I do know a lot of people love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had tried the demo and I wasn't super impressed with it. And I think I had noted that on the podcast that I had played when I had played the demo. But normally that looks like my alley as a strategy RPG fan of like Fire Emblem and other stuff like that. So that one just didn't really reach me, or maybe it was too confusing for me or whatever. I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. In the chat, Blake's talking about Kanzara, Tales of Zhao. I'm not sure what that was in context to, but anyway. And then let's see. Jakester has been playing mostly games from previous years, and so he doesn't have a whole lot of picks, and they're of course talking about your browser there, Barry, and throw it in the chat. How many of you think Barry should not have like 200 tabs open? Because I think that's why it keeps killing his browser. But yeah, Philip excited about ease. And then Philip also saying that he wishes Falcom had a AAA budget because boy, what they could do with Ease and the Legend of Heroes series would be phenomenal. And then he thinks they would also put Square Enix to shame. And Jakester is getting into getting Unicorn Overlord for Christmas. So I hope you're excited about that. Any other thoughts about third party before we move on?
Greg loved it. His favorite category, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's pretty on average for me. Like this is usually one of my harder categories to do, just because there's not a lot of interest from a lot of these like series that are like oftentimes like the Wii U had was getting like all the old Assassin's Creed games or whatever, and then so it's like kind of hard to get like caught up when they like put a random entry that is part of a series. And I don't know, like I guess there hasn't really been a lot of like huge things I've been looking forward to outside the Life is Strange, but I do try them out if something looks like it would be up my alley, but oftentimes I feel like I get more burn than necessary.
I bet you'd love Ease, Greg, since you love Zelda.
Yeah. I think I would enjoy it as well. I think that the big thing when I thought of third-party games this year, and it was represented in a lot of my honorable mentions, and very present in Barry's picks as well. Like this was a year for RPGs, and I think that's what's made me struggle with third parties as well. Greg, I mean, I had some put on my list, but I also thought like you, it was like, man, what am I going to put on here? Because I had to think through it. There's some fantastic RPGs, but I just don't have the time to play those. And I'm sure if I did have the time, I would really probably enjoy The Legend of Heroes and Ease and One Sword. I'm sure that, like, these games sound fantastic. When Barry talks about them, I'm like, man, this sounds awesome. Wish I had the time. I don't have the time to sink all these hours into it. But yeah, they sound like fantastic games. But yeah.
Yeah, because even like Prince of Persia, it sounds like something would have been up my alley, but I know both you guys got the codes for it. So like
yeah.
But don't feel bad, Greg. I didn't get the DLC code. Only Steve got that, and he can't even play the DLC.
Not yet. I'm almost there. So I love that it froze a little bit as you're giving me a look.
Perfect. That's
I
perfect.
thought you were just holding it there
Let that
for a while.
sink. Let that sink into your mind.
Oh boy. Uh, looking at the chat again, Aaron Taylor said he started playing A Link to the Past, and again on Game Boy Advance SP after Echoes, and that was a fun re-experience. And getting into the Switch 2, he's excited about third party and might pick up again in the future, especially if it has specs closer to the PS5. That'd be really, really exciting. So we'll see. Let's move into first party. And so these are the Nintendo developed, published games for the Switch that fall into generally fall into the AAA. Like, these are the games that Nintendo really pushes this year, and yeah, it's been an interesting year. As we've talked about on previous episodes, like this, you can kind of tell a little bit that this is probably the Switch's last year, or we're kind of going out, getting ready for another console. But they still were able to put out quite a few games this year. As Barry said, there's been pretty much a game almost every month this year, and some of those have been remakes, but not all of them. And so let's jump into first party games and kick it off with your third place there, Greg.
All right, so this one was one of those awesome Shadow Drop announcement trailers that they did, and even had quite an epic physical edition, and that is Nintendo World Championships NES edition. So I'm not really a speedrunner of any kind. I don't proclaim to be or anything like that, but I definitely had a lot of fun trying to challenge myself as a potential speedrunner for some of these kind of titles. So like I was a lot of the NES games and just simple stuff like just grabbing like the mushroom in Mario or defeating enemies in Legend of Zelda. So it's like pretty straightforward, and most of the challenges are all very bite-sized and very tiny. And then there's usually one kind of gauntlet challenge at the end, which usually has you do like an entire, like either a world or maybe in a particular level, or I think in a very few instances just like the entire game, like Super Mario Brothers and the Donkey Kong arcade game. So I did have a lot of fun with it, and I did fully S rank all the challenges, and really wish they would have added actually some more to it over time, but that hasn't really been the case. But that was my number 3 pick, the NES World Championship Edition.
Nice. Barry, how about your number 3?
Yeah, mine was also kind of came out of nowhere in terms of the announcement. I don't think any of us expected this game to ever exist, but it did. And I'm happy that it does. And that is Mario and Luigi Brothership. I think we all were like, Mario and Luigi's dead with Alpha Dream. And no, it's not. It's back in a brand new adventure. And while it's not perfect, and it definitely kind of goes on a little longer than I think it needs to, it's a lot of fun. And if you enjoy the Mario and Luigi games, you really will enjoy this. The combat is good. It's fluid. I love the brother combo attacks, and just the story is unique. And again, another game with the ship sailing around and finding new islands, and just a lot of fun. And so if you are looking for a new RPG adventure with the brothers, then you can't go wrong here. It's just really cool islands to explore, a lot of creativity in this new world, and beautiful music too.
Nice. Well, my number 3 goes to Super Mario Party Jamboree. I know Nintendo keeps changing up the different styles of naming conventions here, but yeah, Super Mario Party Jamboree. And yeah, I love that we're back into, it's for the most part traditional Mario Party. I didn't like when we went off in that strange direction at the end of the numbered games, and we've had some hit or miss kind of games recently, but I'm a big fan of Super Mario Party Jamboree. I love that they have the online components now. So if you want to do play some people that are not in the same room, it seems to be playing really pretty smoothly. There's some new games, some old ones as well, a good mix of both. And of course, Mario Party is a great game to bring out at parties. Hence Mario Party. But yeah, I love that it's not just for like the true gamers. It's really, really fun to have when lots of different people are around and they're like, yeah, I can figure out how to play this. But it also becomes a little cutthroat. You guys know Mario Party. It's fun. It's exciting. And yeah, it was number 3 for me. So let's go back to Greg for his number 2.
Yeah, so this one was a game that just arrived actually last month, and it was actually Barry's number 2, and that's the Mario and Luigi Brothership. So I was a big fan of the Mario Luigi games, all on the what was it, Game Boy Advance and DS and stuff that have gone through, and then unfortunately with Alpha Dream going under. But I thought it was a pretty good return to form. So I know a number of people aren't really happy with how it's like almost got tutorial, and it's kind of like a lot of it is just kind of shoved down and can't really skip a lot of things either. But I mean, that's just kind of the nature of some of these more simplistic games, and I really enjoyed like the combat system that Barry also mentioned. There's no gimmicks like the Paper Mario series or anything like that. Just straight up just using the action buttons and timing. My main issue is still that they changed Luigi's option to hit the B button or hit the A button to confirm the action and then use to the B button right back, where on the previous games you just used B to confirm the action and then B to do the actual actions. And I still get tripped up even though just finished up like the second major boss or whatever. So still get caught from time to time, but excellent game there, and really glad it came out this year.
Nice. Barry, how about you for number 2?
My number 2 is probably going to surprise a lot of people, and that is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. Love Zelda games. Everyone knows that. I've seen it on this for over a decade now. My love for Zelda, and I absolutely adore this game. I love that we're playing as Zelda. I love that it's different. I love the ecosystem, even though at times I wish I could just attack. And yes, you have sword fighter mode, and I did use it. Definitely, probably less than I should, but I wanted to conserve my energy, and I just had a blast with this game, start to finish. I did pretty much everything. I just didn't do all the smoothie recipes, but there's a lot to collect. There's a lot to do, from stamps to getting all the power ups and getting all the orbs to power up sword fighter ability, and just if you haven't played this yet and you love Zelda, I don't know what you're waiting for. I love the world. It's Link's Awakening remake graphics, and it's obviously a link to the past world, or that version of Hyrule. But yeah, just I'm sure you guys are going to talk about it more, so I'll stop here. Just play the game.
That's funny. Yeah, my number 2, it goes to Endless Ocean Luminous. I was a big fan of the original game, but yeah, it was kind of lacking in some different ways. When they came out with this one with so much more content, was really cool. I think there's like over 500 different species of fish and animals and stuff like that you can discover, and the fact that you can actually do it online this time in groups, I think is really cool. I haven't had that experience yet, but it sounds really cool to just take this like scuba diving adventure with like all your friends online and just be able to explore. I think it's a chill game that looks really pretty, and it's just fun to just explore the ocean in a video game form. And so, yeah, Endless Ocean Luminous is my number 2. So, Greg, let's go to you for any honorable mentions and then your number 1.
I actually forgot to put the honorable mention like when in the sheet that I sent you, but I did put Super Mario Party Jamboree that I wanted to insert there. It's been kind of growing on me despite like the few issues that I said on the last few podcasts, but I think it still deserves to be mentioned there. But then number 1, it seems like I've just been following Barry's list because it's Echoes of Wisdom. So it's like, kind of just like he's just one tier off, and shame on him for finding something better than this one. So pretty much the easy standout for me. I mean, I love the Legend of Zelda series, and I still need to go back and even play this even more because I didn't even finish up like the Zora area. I only had done like the Gerudo, but it was definitely a fun time that I was having, just using the different echoes to solve all the different puzzles that I encountered and completed all the different things that I could find along the way. So I still have a long way to go to finish exploring the world and also finishing up the epic story. So that's one thing I'll be hoping to look forward to during this holiday season.
Nice. Yeah, if only you had one above number one. It'd be interesting to see if it matches up with what Barry's going to pick for number one. But yeah, Barry, any honorable mentions in your number one?
Yeah. So Endless Ocean Luminous, I had a lot of fun with that one, as you mentioned, and Super Mario Party Jamboree, I had a lot of fun there. I did have a lot of fun with Nintendo World Championship as well, NES edition. Didn't get all S's like Greg, but did have fun with it, and I did have fun with Princess Peach Showtime too. It had its quirks, that's for sure, but I did have fun with it. But my number one this year was a complete surprise, came out of nowhere, just like a lot of these other games, and that is Emio, the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club. What a game! I never played the Famicom Detective Club games before. I got the remakes on Switch digitally because the physical is not in English. I tried one of them. I just didn't get into it. And then this was announced, and I said, "All right, I got to go back and play those two first." And it clicked. And I had a lot of fun with those original two games. And when this came out, I was ecstatic. And I will say, this game goes darker and harder than I've seen Nintendo do since Eternal Darkness. There was literally a part in this game I had to look away from the screen because it was just, what? This is a Nintendo game. This is not what I was expecting. It is that good, and I feel it's going to be overshadowed. Really, if you like detective games, if you like great stories, if you like mystery, do not sleep on this. This is a phenomenal game, and I want to see the series keep going.
Wow. All right. Not a game I played, but also I'm was also surprised because it seems like it's on that almost horror kind of genre, which is also not usually something you really enjoy, Barry. So yeah.
Well, I don't like the jump scares. There's no jump scares in this. It's a visual novel detective, but there is absolutely a murder mystery and all that stuff for sure. And it's not a scary game. It's
Okay.
intriguing, and it is like there's a demo for it for the first 3 chapters, like,
Okay.
and that carries over to the main game. So give this game a try. It is
Nice.
not what you would expect from Nintendo.
Nice. So dark plot, not necessarily dark as in
Correct.
horror, but just dark plot. Got it.
It's a dark plot, yes,
Got it.
and a very sad, tragic story as well.
Cool. I just realized I said cool after a sad, tragic story. Never mind. We'll just move on. I, as far as honorable mentions for me, I did not list some games that you listed. I actually did not consider the Nintendo World Championships an honorable mention. I actually was kind of disappointed in a lot of that game. I played it a little bit, and then I haven't touched it in a while. And was not a huge fan. I'm glad that the game Princess Peach Showtime was better than the demo, because the demo was horrible. I had a bad time with that. I did put Mario and Luigi Brothership in honorable mentions. Not my, like, again, probably would get into it, but if I had the time and all that stuff, but I think it looks like a fantastic game. Everything that I've seen, things that I've heard from you guys, seems like a fantastic game. But surprise, surprise, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is my number one game for Switch and for first party. And yeah, it's what can I say that you guys haven't said already? I think it's a great game. It does change up things. I'm not, this is not going to top my list of Zelda games that have come out, but it's still a fantastic game. I really enjoy what they've done here. I love that they changed up the style of the game, and in terms of the echoes, I think it makes like the entire game a puzzle, which is fun. I think it's fun to figure out how to do different things, and there's multiple ways to do different stuff. Kind of takes that similar thing to the last couple of Zelda games and kind of puts it differently. It's got some weaknesses. I really wish there was some other way to like go through the echoes, and then having this gigantic string of echoes that you have to sort through and just find what you're looking for. But you eventually figure it out as best you can to go through it. Like you, Barry, I think sometimes I wish you could just enter into combat and just fight everybody, but it's cool to have a different style of a Zelda game, and it looks phenomenal. Like I'm every time I see it, I'm just like, this is so cool. And it's like they've taken that, it was the Game Boy game that you love, Barry, the
Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening, and just continues into that art style, and it's fantastic. And yeah, I'm just a huge fan of Echoes to Wisdom, and that's why it's Switch first party number 1 for me, and for Greg as well, and number 2 for Barry. So it's up there. So what we get from the?
I told you
from the
I was
community?
going to be the combo breaker here. So for from let me bring it up here from Kev, he said Thousand Year Door was his favorite, even though it's a remake. He didn't have one for anything that wasn't a remake, so he put Thousand Year Door. So it's his favorite for remake, which we're going to get to next, and Nintendo.
All right, sliding through for the chat. Looks like Aaron's enjoying Brothership a lot so far, and still salty that they skipped Partners in Time for a remake and went straight to Bowser's Inside Story. Mono's excited for Echoes of Wisdom. We're finally talking about that. And then those are you guys. And then Aaron said Partners in Time was the black sheep at the time. Really hard to get a copy. Apparently it says that now it's like $100 on eBay, which is crazy to think about. But also really enjoyed Echoes, but felt it was a little underwhelming in terms of scope and story compared to Link Between Worlds or Link's Awakening. And I'd agree. I'd agree, Aaron. I like those games better. Especially Link Between Worlds is one of my favorite Zelda games. Yeah, I think it's lacking. It's still up there. It's a solid Zelda game, but it's not at the top of the list for Zelda games for me. Greg, any more thoughts on first party games?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if the one that Barry was talking about was more like almost like a remake, but I don't know if that was like a different game that I was thinking of. But yeah, I wasn't. Definitely. I think it was the first 2 they did a remake, and then maybe that was just like the third entry that was brand new or something.
Yeah,
correct. So they remade the first 2 that were actually on the Famicom a couple years ago for the Switch, and this is a completely brand new story. It's the third game in the series, like chronologically it takes place, but it's a brand new original story and original game.
Yeah. And it kind of, I think, caught us off guard because it was almost a shadow drop sort of thing, right? Like just a shadow announcement.
Yeah.
Like we saw it, we didn't see it coming at all.
They just did like the teaser trailer, like the teaser of like who was Emio with like the man with the bag over his head, and no one knew what it was. Like, is Nintendo going into horror? And then it was revealed that it was a new Famicom Detective Club game. But yeah, it's 100% brand new, which is great because it's like Nintendo revived a series that hasn't seen a new entry since the Famicom. And this year Nintendo's done that a lot. Endless Ocean, we haven't seen a new entry since the Wii. We got a new one there too. And one of the remakes even is an older series too. So it's great to see Nintendo starting to do that and bring these old franchises back.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Where's Star Tropics?
No, Nintendo doesn't know about Star Tropics. It was American only. Japan doesn't care about Star Tropics.
Well, I think it's time to move into remakes and ports. And yeah, this was something that we talked about. If you're thinking back to our last episode, we didn't include this category as we were kind of going over what we will be talking about. But us three kind of got together afterwards and thought through, you know what, this year really deserves this. So Barry, like, you were the one that kind of brought this up. Why did we include a remake and ports category this year?
Well, the Switch is on its last year standalone, and it's a lot easier to fill that with ports and remakes. And a lot of these remakes have been in development for a while. Like, these weren't just thought of overnight. But we're seeing that already going forward into next year. We've got Donkey Kong Country Returns and Xenoblade Chronicles X, both of which are either a remake with Xenoblade or an enhanced port with Donkey Kong Country. And I have a foreseeable future next year. That's probably going to be the bulk of what the Switch gets, especially from Nintendo. It's easy to get those games on the Switch, run on the Switch, and provide software. And I think the Switch 2 was probably supposed to come out this year. We all expected it to come out this year, and then there was this rumor of a delay, which obviously happened. Thus, this year being filled with mostly remakes and ports from Nintendo. So they held the ground, but I think that's one of the reasons. And third parties too are just bringing stuff on, like they're bringing old games back from years ago, or they're finally comfortable enough bringing it to the Switch to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really nice that the Switch actually can handle a lot of these games, and so all of a sudden they're finally able to port them over. They're comfortable doing that, like you said. But then, yeah, there's a lot of these fantastic games that they're like, hey, this is great. Let's enhance it, or let's completely remake it. In some ways, that's really cool. Greg, any thoughts on all the different remakes and ports that we had this year?
Yeah, this was definitely one of my more competitive categories because there was quite a lot this year. I almost wanted to like spread them out into the other categories like third parties and like first party games because like even them were I felt like more deserving than like my blank entries and my Nintendo World Championships even. So like I wish I could have had those over there, but since we ironed out this new category, it just made it even more competitive. And I even did like some research, and this isn't like a unique year for Switch because there has been a number of other years like where there was like 4 or 5 different remakes that were still released that could easily fill out a category. So it might be one that we can keep going forward, just depending on how if there is this much competition going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's
Yeah,
get
I think this
into
is my
it.
largest of non-honorable mentions.
It's pretty
I was saying I
close.
think this is
Yeah,
my most honorable mentions.
yeah,
There's just so many.
yeah, yeah. I think it makes it for an interesting year. Yeah, as I was thinking through earlier, like these are great games, but they're remakes and ports. So like, yeah, we'll get into it in just a bit. But yeah, it's been an interesting year because there've been so many of these. So we decided to honor a few of them. So let's jump into number 3 of the remakes and ports for Switch this year. First for you, Greg.
All right. Well, this would have been my number 3 in the third party category, but we now nominated it for this one, and that is Epic Mickey Rebrushed. So it was a fantastic Wii game that I really enjoyed back on the Nintendo Wii, and then I'm really glad and happy that they did bring this one forward onto Switch. Everything seemed to work pretty fluidly, and the controls worked really well, and it's a lot better that you don't have to use the different waggle controls of the Wii remote and everything, and I felt like everything came over very well, and I still had a lot of fun in my playing through on here, and just look forward to hopefully be able to continue my quest when I get some more time to go back to it.
Nice, nice. How about you, Barry? Number 3 for remakes and ports.
This was a tough one. This was contested, but number 3, I decided to bring it to Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. Uh, I've always been a Dragon Quest fan from the get go, and to see what they did with this game is just phenomenal. It is very, very faithful to the original, and if what I like is a lot of people complain that it is tough, and it is. It's NES tough. It is definitely challenging, and there's a lot of random battles, and you can use items to help circumvent that to a bit, but there is a difficulty level that allows you to just not have to worry about that. Explore this game and see the story, and I appreciate that as someone now, especially with a kid. Just being able to enjoy the game and enjoy the world and enjoy the story of Erdrick and the original adventure he went on. So this is one of those that if you like classic RPGs, then you really, really need to give this a shot because they added a bunch to it. There's a whole new post game dungeon and just the level of depth to this world, and they also added a lot of backstory to your father, your Erdrick's father, that fleshed out the character even more. And if you play Dragon Quest 11 or 11S through to completion, then you'll appreciate this even more.
Nice. Before we jump into mine, I just want to just a little caveat, little spoiler. I am not a huge fan of ports, and so these are going to be remakes on my list, which made it for an
fine.
interesting list this year, because I was looking through all the ports. I'm like, you know what, they really don't get me excited, and at the same time, a lot of remakes don't really get me excited either. So this number 3, I'm just going to preface this with, I've not played it, haven't played the original version. I think it looks phenomenal, but it's an RPG, and so like I haven't played it. But that is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. It looks great. Looks like a game that I think I would really get into if I had the time to play RPGs. And I think what they've done here, if you remember what I talked about in some of the other categories of Plucky Squire and stuff like that, I just love the art style for this game. It just like, it is a storybook kind of come to life. I love the fun and the hilarity of it, but just haven't played it because it's an RPG. But yeah, really think they've done a phenomenal job with it, and that's why I gave it my number 3 for remakes and ports. So on to you, Greg, for number 2.
Well, I guess I should probably just keep the trailer playing, because that's my number 2 pick, is the Thousand Year Door. So this was a GameCube game that I just didn't really get time to play on the GameCube, and then while I did have a little bit of time on Switch to play it, I still need to get back and play even more of it, because I have only done very minimal amount like on the Switch version, and then got super busy with summertime and everything. Um, as you said, it's like a very awesome, like picture book esque style, and really glad to see like even they use a lot of the same types of graphics from like Origami King and all that kind of stuff, and just really happy to see this game get a new life on Switch, and even see that it outsold the original version on GameCube. So yeah, it was definitely a surprise out of left field, and a very great one from what I've played so far of it. But yeah, that was my number 2 pick.
Nice. Barry, number 2.
Just keep it going. It's Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door. Looking when you talked about remakes and ports, I was looking through my list, and I'm like, you know what? Mine are all remakes too. I do prefer remakes, obviously, but it felt wrong to just make a port category, so we just jump them all together. But yeah, Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door is a phenomenal Paper Mario game. If you haven't played it yet, you really should. What else is there to say? Just it's awesome. Just play it. It's just great.
Nice. All right. Well, moving on to number 2 for me, since I already picked Paper Mario, I'm going to move on to another game that originally kind of in the original game caught me off guard. Didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy this game, and that is Mario versus Donkey Kong. Yeah, I usually this kind of style of game was like, I'm not sure, the Lemmings thing, and it was like, oh, it's just the same kind of thing with the mini Marios and all that stuff. But wow, I really enjoyed this. I love the puzzle style of trying to get this. So it's a platform, but it's mostly puzzle and trying to figure out these screens and how do you get your character across the screen and all this stuff. It just challenges my mind, and I really enjoy this originally a lot more than I thought. And then bringing it into on the Switch, it looks phenomenal because it's all in HD now and everything. And yeah, it's just a really fun game. So Mario versus Donkey Kong is number 2 for me. So Greg, moving on to any honorable mentions, and your number 1.
Yeah, so a lot of these honorable mentions might have made this actual listing because of the ones that it did put in here. But I have another code recollection. Never had played that one before, and that was a great game that came out pretty much almost a year ago now, because it was January. I also had the Mario versus Donkey Kong that you just talked about. That was really great to see what they did and all the visuals they upgraded there, and then even put Luigi's Mansion 2 in this listing too. It's really great to. I know Dark Moon's kind of a better title for it, but it was just another game that was really great to see be able to play on Switch. But number one is easily my favorite Dragon Quest game, and that's Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. So this is basically the game that really got me going into RPGs a lot more. I had played the first two on NES and then played this one, and then this one really opened up everything to see what they could really do with it, and really thoroughly enjoyed the version. And as Barry said, they kept everything very true to the form. Like a lot of the maps are still in the same style, and like they remixed the previous tunes like with the orchestrated version. It was fantastic to hear like a lot of the same like upgraded sound effects and stuff they've thrown in there, and then even added some new content like the Monster Wrangler class that I'm having a ton of fun enjoying playing with that there too. Definitely looking forward to the first two games coming out next year as well. So that's my number one remake remaster, Dragon Quest 3.
Nice. Barry, how about any honorable mentions in your number one?
Oh yeah. So another code reaction, like Greg said, that's kind of an iffy one. I think I'm freezing. I don't know.
You are a little
Oh,
bit,
I'm back.
but we'll see how it goes.
Because one of the games one of the games we didn't even get here. So it's kind of like, where does this go? It's new for us, but it is a remake. So I put that there. Mario vs. Donkey Kong, I really enjoyed more than I thought I would. I put Luigi's Mansion 2 as well. Wizardry Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, which we did a game chat on. I thought that was a really cool remake of a very, very classic Wizardry game. Monster Hunter Stories, had a lot of fun with that earlier this year. That was a remake from the 3DS. Sam and Max, The Devil's Playhouse, which we'll be doing a game chat on later. That's a remake or at least a port. Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seven, is a phenomenal remake of Romancing Saga. I said Revenging. Romancing Saga 2 from Super Nintendo. It really took me by surprise. Absolutely play that one. Disney's Epic Mickey Rebrushed, I had a lot of fun with that. Sonic X Shadow Generations. It was great to see that one come back. And the Castlevania Dominus Collection. Just awesome Castlevania games. Awesome. My number one was originally Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Spoiler alert. But when doing it, this was the game that I didn't realize was a remake until I was looking through the trailer and said, "Oh yeah, this is a remake from a game from 2000, only in Japan, never came here." But boy, did it sweep me off my feet, and I absolutely can't talk enough about this. And that's Tsukahime, A Piece of Blue Glass Moon. What a game. I went in blind. I went in not expecting anything. This is just going to be a visual novel. People say it's really cool. You're a character, then you can see the lines of death. You can literally see where every object will break apart, every human will die, and you can trace those lines and just literally kill anything. You could break apart a wall with ease. You can break a lock. You can also cut somebody in half. And I said, where are they going with this story? How are they going to take this and make it, really, really to the next level? And they do it when you brutally murder somebody uncontrollably. Why does this happen? And she comes back. And this suddenly goes from a story of intrigue to vampires and death and monsters and night hunts. And it just goes from, hey, this is a high school teen story to, no, we're going dark places. We are bringing mature elements into this. And it is phenomenal. It is a good read. And it's not even the full story. They're doing a sequel, but if you enjoy visual novels, you enjoy supernatural, you really would be doing yourself a disservice to not really like play this game. It is just that good that it takes my number one.
Wow. Thinking if that's the no, he popped off the screen, but I'll keep saying what I was going to say. But it's really, really interesting to think through if that was on Barry's original third party. You'd had MEO and this game back to back on that. So like, it would make for a pretty dark third party list there.
It was originally third place for third party until I saw that, and I said, okay, yeah, it's moving to the remakes, and and I had to talk about it. It was one of those that I didn't expect to play it. I got it, and then people were talking about it, and I said, "Well, I'm in a lull. There's no new games out. Let me just give this a try." And I enjoyed it so much that I wound up getting the anime. There was an anime to watch and to see that story, and I can't wait for the next. In fact, I went to the fighting game Melty Blood, which is on Switch. It was a fighting game based on a visual novel. Never thought that would be a thing, but it is, and it's phenomenal too. But after you play the game,
And Mo Knows agrees with me. He's like, dark, man, dark. Barry's going dark.
oh yeah, dark, but it's if you like supernatural, like just give this game a shot. It is. We never got the original, and this is just awesome.
If you're watching the video version, Barry's gone dark several times on this episode as his box goes from video to black as he pops off the screen. Oh, and Greg's talking, but we can't hear him because he's on mute.
Yeah, the dogs were barking, so I muted myself, and that's probably why I thought I was trying to say something, but you guys didn't even know I was talking. But, I was saying, yeah, Mo Knows made that comment right as the screen went dark, and that was pretty coincidental timing on that.
Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
I just like that my damn browser crashed right after I finished, which was perfect.
Yeah, that was perfect timing. Instead of in the middle of a game like before with ease, and I was like, I've not played this game, but I know Barry likes it. We'll keep talking a little bit about it before he comes back. Yeah, as I think through the remakes and ports, several of the honorable mentions you guys have mentioned already. Epic Mickey Rebrushed, great to see that game. Love the original game. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. It's kind of a port. It's a collection of ports. Even though Greg's never played it and isn't getting into it for some reason, has never enjoyed the goodness of Mario with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Mario vs. Capcom would be also a fun collaboration. Nintendo, you should do that. But Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and then Tomb Raider, the 1 through 3 collection. I think that was a really fun surprise to see them bring those games over. Another Code Recollection is on my list as well. Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. And then not really something new, but I can't help but avoid talking about Atari 50. It's DLC that keeps being added, but it's like more and more ports that just keep making this collection, this museum of games, of ports from the arcade games and all the way through the 2600, the 5200, all those games, bringing them to Switch and several other consoles and PC is really cool. And in fact, I think I now, because of Humble Bundle, I think I own like 2 copies of that game. I think I own it on Switch and Steam now because it was included in some Humble Bundle. So yeah, cool that they keep adding more and more games to that. So honorable mention, doesn't fall into first, second, or third. But what does fall into third is you're probably like narrowing this down. There's been games that have been this one game that's been mentioned that I haven't talked about yet, and that is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I was a really big fan of the original Luigi's Mansion game. Thought it was just a fun experience to play Luigi. And then when they came in with 2, it was really cool. Now he's got multiple mansions and all this sort of thing. Really cool to play it and on the go. And now to see it in HD is just really, really fun. I agree. We've talked about this in past episodes that it should have been Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon. But, you know, maybe they'll eventually add the subtitle. Probably not. But, you know, stranger things have happened. But yeah, I just love the ghost fighting experience. I love a lot of the Ghostbusters games. This brings it to with Luigi in there and just so fun. The style of how they animate and go through how Luigi reacts to things is so fun to watch. And I think this falls in with those categories. Is it's a fun game to play, but it's also a really fun game to watch because it's so animated and there's so many different things that are going on in this game. So yeah, highly recommend Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, or as we call it, Luigi Mansion 2 Dark Moon HD. What we see in the community there, Barry, for ports and remakes?
Paper Mario Thousand Year Door was the only one I had.
Nice. Looks like it kind of went a little silent in the chat as well. A lot of people, saying that they enjoy original games on the original hardware, said Monos, which I do as well. Like, until they do like an HD remake, those are cool because it's like has the same experience, but all of a sudden it looks like really enhanced. But if it's going to be just a port of the original game, I'd rather play it on the original system. With the exceptions of like the NSO, that's just really fun to have those all in just one app. Which brings me to my thought that's totally not planned, but why do we not have these all in just one app? It is kind of a pain in the butt to switch between the Nintendo and the NES app and the SNES app and all these different ones, and now we have the adult rated ones. And why just put them all in one app? Nintendo, maybe they'll do that for the
That
next
would be
system.
cool.
Yeah,
and you have like tabs.
Yeah, they can make it all happen. Just put it all in one. But anyway, like if we were to count all those, I mean, do those count as ports? Let's see. Yeah, Mono's also said Luigi's Mansion is a great GameCube game. I agree. And JC Glenn says he likes both options. Greg, any thoughts on remakes and ports before we move on?
Yeah, it was definitely a fantastic year for these and lots of great games. I mean, I really wish I could have played more Thousand Year Door and even Epic Mickey, and I've been trying to cram in like Dragon Quest 3 here at the end of the year because it just came out in the last month or so. It was lots of great games here, and looking forward to, as I said, to see what they do with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 and some of the other ones that will be coming out next year, like Donkey Kong Country Returns HD as well too.
Nice. Barry, any final thoughts before we move on to our non-Switch category?
Yeah, just a lot of remakes this year and a lot of ports, and think that's really good from a preservation standpoint. Ever since that survey that like 87% of retro games are not playable on current systems, we're seeing so many more ports and collections and compilations and stuff. The Atari 50 and you mentioned the Marvel's Capcom. There's a Capcom Fighting Collection 2 that just went, is coming out with like Power Stone on it. Like I love that. I want to see more of that. I think it's great just to be able to have that library on modern systems and get them preserved. And some of these remakes, it's wonderful for them to go back and fix things that they couldn't do to begin with, or add in from other versions. Like DKC Returns coming out in January has the 3DS levels, so it's the first time those levels are done in HD and all on one system. And I think that's great. And we've seen them do that, like with Hyrule Warriors, where Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U had a bunch of DLC, and then Hyrule Warriors Legends on new 3DS had different DLC, and then Hyrule Warriors on the Switch, the definitive edition, took all the content from Wii U and all the content from the 3DS and put it in one game. Like that's great. That's what we need to see more of.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's move on to our next category, and we're going to take a step away from Nintendo, and we're going to look at the other platforms that are out there. And yes, there are other platforms in addition to Nintendo. We got your PC games, which a lot of hardcore PC gamers out there. We got PlayStation. We'll shine some light on PlayStation. We'll shine some light on Xbox. We'll shine some light on mobile as well. And there's, not all mobile games are horrible anymore. There's actually some pretty good mobile games. And so we're going to turn our attention away from Switch and look at all those different platforms in our non-Switch category. And just a heads up, this is not a category that will be in the or overall Game of the Year category. This is a separate one that we're just going to honor this for our non-Switch games to just talk about a little bit about non-Nintendo for a little bit. So let's kick it over to Greg first as you tell us your number 3.
Yeah, so so like previous years, I preface this by saying I haven't played any of the games I put in this list, but these are games that I would play had I have the console or means to do so. So to kick things off with number 3, Dragon Age: The Veilguard was a game that looked to be very interesting, like a little like action style, like almost Zelda style game. And I understand that's part of a series, and that's also like a series that I would prefer to get into had it arrive on like an actual Nintendo console. So that's my third pick was the Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Nice. Yeah, looks cool. Barry, how about your number 3?
My number 3 was one game that it was there up until I hit send, and right beforehand I decided no, I'm going to swap it out. So that game I'll reveal in the honorable mentions. But my number 3 had to go into a game that I just had so much fun with, and I'm so happy to see, and that's Visions of Mana. So happy to see this because we haven't had a new Mana game in well over a decade. Love the Mana series, love action RPGs. Just what a game. Just the graphics are absolutely gorgeous. The vistas are absolutely gorgeous. The characters are phenomenal. There were ones where I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going to like this character," and fell in love with them. The whole job system where you have the 8 different elements, and every time you switch an element, the character switches their outfit and their job. So you have all these great party combinations between the 5 characters, and it always constantly changing. It's just a phenomenal game. Fast travel's nice and easy too, so you can go back and get things you missed. And yeah, it's just Mana needs more love. And if you haven't played this yet, and you like action RPGs, this is one of the grandfather series of RPGs and action RPGs. Give this game a shot, and I can definitely see this coming to Switch too, with a Switch 2 port. But just, it's so good.
Nice. Yeah, I really, really hope it does come to Switch 2. And my number 3 pick, similar to Greg, these are games that are kind of a little aspirational for me. And number 3 goes to Metaphor ReFantasio. And I didn't know anything about this game. I think maybe Barry, you talking about it one time, was the first time I had heard about this game. But the more I looked into it and heard about it, like it's getting rave reviews all across. Like everybody is just raving about this game so much. A role playing game, of course, an RPG, developed by Studio Zero and published by Atlas and Sega. So those names, you're like, oh yeah, this has got to be really good, and it really just looks great, and everything I've heard about this game makes me want to play it. Number one, if I had a system that could play it, that'd be great. And then number 2, if I had the time to sink into it, would be as great as well. But man, everything I've seen and heard about this game is so good. So number 2 for you, Greg.
Keeping the dragon theme alive, and with a lot of my nominations like Dragon Quest and Dragon Age, we have Dragon's Dogma 2. So it's like another series that I would probably try to get into had I had a PlayStation to be able to enjoy it. So I don't really have a ton to say because I haven't played it or anything, but it just seems very interesting, and it seems like it would be a lot of fun to look through and enjoy it.
Nice. All right, number 2 for
Clearly,
you.
Greg does not listen to our podcast. It's funny. So my number 2 was my number 1 almost all year. I was like, this is my number 1 all year, and that changed by the end of the year. But it is my number 2, and that is Rise of the Ronin. Rise of the Ronin kind of came out of nowhere. It's by Koei Tecmo, Team Ninja, Sony published. It is a feudal Japanese open area adventure, and the combat, it's not just push button to win. You have to actually parry and dodge, and it really made you think. And the story is a very political, story in Japan about, Americans and Europeans coming over, and their influence. They're bringing disease, and you have a group of Japanese that want to do trade and open up, and another that is very traditional. And no, you absolutely, we have to, stay true to the homeland, and we need to repel. And depending on the missions you do, you can side either way, and your alliances will change. and it does use a lot of stuff from Breath of the Wild, like the glider, and you got the hook to pull yourself up, and it's just blew me away. It's not a perfect game, but I had so much fun playing this and just enjoying the environments and the world and the characters. And I think it's like they do things that will shock you in the story. Like you're like, oh, this is totally gonna go left, and it goes right, and it doesn't just go right; it goes like hard right, and you're like, whoa, totally wasn't expecting this. So if you like Japanese style games, if you like Japanese stories, if you like or action combat, give this game a shot. Koei Tecmo is known for their action combat, and they definitely deliver with this one.
Yeah, Team Ninja knows what they're doing. And I similar to Greg. Typically, this is a category that I put a bunch of games in that I would like to play if they were on the Switch. Recently, as you guys know, I've now gotten some other, in past years, I've gotten some other systems and stuff like that, but I don't have a PS5. I don't have, the newest, the Series X for Xbox and stuff like that. I've got a system that I can play PC games on, but it's kind of the mid-level, PC, handheld PC, and so this is a game that I really want to play, but I don't think it's going to run very well on my PC, so I have not tried it out just yet. But that's a little game called Tekken 8. I was a big Street Fighter fan growing up, huge fan of Street Fighter 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, all those games. And it wasn't till when my best friends in college or grad school roommate got me into Tekken. He was a big Tekken fan. And I was like, man, this game's really, really good too. And Tekken 8 just looks phenomenal. Like, I think they've taken what we have loved through the years and just put a great new spin on it with some amazing graphics, but some really cool character designs, some new characters. A lot of the old characters just look phenomenal on these, like, HD 4K graphics and everything. And so, yeah, Tekken 8, I'm sure it's a lot of fun. It looks like a lot of fun, but I unfortunately don't have anything that would actually play it very well. It would look like Tekken 4 on anything that I played it. But, so, Greg, moving over to any honorable mentions and then your number one.
I didn't really have any to nominate for honorable mentions this time around, but for number one, this was a game that I know for sure that Barry had played. It's Astrobot, so it's like this really cool platforming type game that kind of brings justice to a lot of the 3D Mario style games, and it just looks like a complete blast to play. So it's just would be certainly right up my alley just to enjoy a lot of different platforming style levels and interacting with all the different enemies and bosses and platforming your way to the top of the levels and to fully complete them. So that was my number one pick, the Astrobot.
Nice. Barry, any honorable mentions and then your number one?
Yeah, so Astrobot was definitely there. Phenomenal game. Power outages aside, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink came out early this year, and I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about it. Just a great RPG. What would have been in the remake if it was on Switch? Persona 3 Reload was a great remake of a great RPG. Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail almost made my list as well. A great expansion to a phenomenal game. Stellar Blade, had a lot of fun with Stellar Blade. Pokemon TCG Pocket, I've been having a lot of fun with that. And the game that was number 3, but
Oh man, the suspense. The suspense.
yeah, perfect timing. Perfect time. You see that? I leave you in suspense. The game that was supposed to be a number 3 was gone. So it was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was originally my number 3. Had a lot of fun with that game, but I think that game doesn't need attention. Visions of Mana does. So I think, and I do think I had a little more fun with Visions in the end. 7 Rebirth had some real pacing issues if you go for 100%. Chapters like 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just it's way too much. And that jungle. Anyone who's played that game knows the jungle. If you're 100%ing, screw that jungle. Beautiful music, terrible zone. But my number one goes to something that again I totally forgot about till it came out, and I was like, I got to play this, and that's Metaphor ReFantasio. Steve talked about all the people talking about it, and I played through to completion. And what a game! Just what a game! This took me by surprise. I like Atlas RPGs. I didn't expect to enjoy this much. This does use that day mechanic, where you have so many days before something else happens, which can add a little pressure. But the dungeons are fun, the characters are great, the story, the intrigue of who's going to be the next king, and the whole race to being that is just phenomenal. And the voice acting, the bosses, just everything about this game, the different jobs, the archetypes you could take over, and just level up. It's classic JRPG love affair, and it's original. Unlike, it's outside the Persona, but it has that Persona flavor. Like if you played the Persona games, you'll naturally love this. It's got the reception, different reputation you can build up with different side characters. Just I can see the sitting Switch too. But if you do have access to play this game and you like,
I'm going to assume that he says, if you do have access to the game and you can play it, you should. Let's see if I was correct.
that was a close one.
It was. So if you do have access to this game,
You really need to give it a shot.
oh, that was almost word for word for what I guessed.
What'd you guess?
I said you should play it or something. I don't even know what I said.
Well,
I
similar.
mean, it's basically
yeah.
it's basically the same thing,
I mean,
just different words.
It wasn't a very difficult guess at how you're going to finish that.
Of course. It was my number one game. No, I think you should stay away from it. It sucks.
If you have access to this game, stay away from it because I want it all for myself. That's what you were going to say.
Exactly. But no, it just took me by surprise, and really, the more I thought about it, the more I just was like, yeah, this game deserves it. It's so good.
Nice. Honorable mentions for me, Visions of Mana. Like, there, I've not played a lot of the Mana games, but I have played enough of them to know they're phenomenal. And this new one looks so great. Really hoping it does come to Switch 2, and that may actually be one of those RPGs that I sink some time into because I know I enjoy that series a lot from the games that I have played of it. As well, I'm going to say, which is a game that I didn't think I was going to get into, but thanks to Barry, I'm now playing it almost on a daily basis as Pokemon, the trading card game on mobile. I've been playing quite a bit of it, and
I noticed you're leveling up. I'm like, oh,
yeah, like I just got
it's
level
fun.
10 today. Like it's ridiculous, and like you said, like I'm not playing the actual, like, for the most part, I've just been collecting the cards and that's it. And then like today I was like, oh yeah, there is this whole battle thing. Maybe I should try that out. And beyond like the tutorial, and I hit auto. I was like, I don't have time to figure out what needs to be done here. However, I got a bone to pick with the stinking AI that played a stupid move at the end of one of them that made me lose. I was like, what are you doing? We had the win.
The AI
and
is
you
smart
threw
enough
to
get you through.
You took it away and threw a Clefairy up there, and that we got took out like in one move. What in the heck were you doing? And then of course the game tries to teach me how I should have played it. I'm like, that wasn't me. That was you. Like you don't tell me I should have been. Not on top of it. Sorry, this is a little rant. On top of that, it's like you should have played a fire deck on this game. I was playing a fire deck. What are you talking about? Like, don't tell me something I already know. I was playing the fire deck. So anyway, but the fact that I'm getting pulled into this more than I expected to as well. It's on the honorable mention. But number one for me for non-Switch is a game that Greg's already talked about, and that's Astrobot. I have said this already. I'm a sucker for a good for a good platformer, and this looks great. And I wish I had a PS5 to play it on. So if anybody wants to make a donation, feel free. Yeah, I think it's something that I really would get into if I had the chance. I'm more of a fan typically of 2D platformers, unless a 3D platformer is done very well, and this seems like it's done very well. And I feel like it'd be similar to like Mario Odyssey and Mario Galaxy, but like in 4K, and it just looks really cool and it seems really fun. And like Barry's talked about on previous episodes too, it's like so many nods to other PlayStation games, and it's just a really fun concept for a game. And so if I had a PS5, I'm sure I would have already played a ton of this game. But even with that, it's enough to put it at number one for non-Switch category for me. So, any non-Switch picks in the community?
Yeah, so what do we have here? We had Dragon Age Veilguard was picked.
Nice.
So, picked with you, Greg.
Yep.
So Jesse was talking about how he likes the old games and new games both. The reports got analog setup, rocks in his house. Playing Rugrats on the NES homebrew was exceptional. And then Mo Knows says that Zev Zero also enjoys Visions of Mana. And then also shout out to me. Tekken's a great series. He's on Team Steve. Sweet. I didn't know we had teams, but I'll take you. And Steve the Boxer. And what metaphor did I? Oh, nice metaphor. The game. That gets confusing. I thought he was talking about we made a metaphor, but yeah, he was excited to see metaphor picked as well. Greg, any thoughts on non-Switch systems before we move on?
Yeah, a quick comment on your auto battle thing. They obviously encourage you to actually play the game. I have the same kind of qualms that has existed in Fire Emblem Heroes and even my Disney Pixel RPG. That's kind of standard because it's trying to actually have you play the game and not intended for you just to like automatically complete things super easily. So the AI just goes for brute force and not necessarily do anything else. So
this was not the brute force attack. I'll tell you that, but yeah.
So I should not say sometimes, but oftentimes the decisions it makes are not even the most ideal or even the best or most favorable. It just, whatever calculation it's made is why it does a certain move, even if it's like, well, why'd you do this when you could have done this?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Makes sense. Barry, any thoughts on non-Switch?
I think I was going to say the AI is good enough for you to get by and to teach you, but not enough for you to really rely on unless you have an OP deck.
Not enough for me to like set
but at least there's no
auto
punishment
fight
for
and then
losing.
just set my phone to the side while I'm doing something else and come back and hopefully you
Well,
won.
you could. There's no punishment for losing, so you
That's
can
true.
do it as much as you want. It's not like there's a stamina or anything like that. So, but no, I think third party or the other systems had a lot of great games, and I'd like to see a lot of them hit the Switch too, and I think a lot of them will. I think Metaphor and Visions of Mana will definitely, with Atlas and Square having a good relationship with Nintendo. Astrobot potential. I mean, Sony is opening up a little more, but I guess we'll.
Oh man, he was going good, but we lost him again. So.
As I commented in the chat earlier, he really needs to close some of those browser tabs so it doesn't just keep crashing.
F's in the chat for Barry's browser. That's what.
Yeah. I've been closing tabs, by the way, just so you know. I don't think it has anything to do with tabs. It's just something with Firefox and that's not working because it doesn't happen on Chrome, but you can't hear me on Chrome. It's weird.
That's weird. Yeah. All right, and Ryan Anthony's like, and he's gone. Oh, great. Well, let's move on. Where we hardly knew he. That's great. So let's move on to have a little fun. And we added this category a few years ago, just to really have fun and break up the potential, positives and just, rant a little bit about some games that were not so good that we played this year. So in these other categories, you've heard some games that we like, some of them we know are good. We played the demos enough to know that we want to nominate those for first, second, third, and all those sort of things. But this is one of the categories where we say we have to play these games. Like these are games we have had to spend some time with. And these are the worst games of the year, according to us and what we have played. And so some of these have popped up on some game chats, and you're probably thinking through, oh yeah, I've heard them rant about some games in the past on some game chats and some previous podcast episodes that are going to be popping up on this list. So maybe you can see if you even can guess what we're going to say before we actually do it. Be sure to throw your worst games in the chat as well. And let's go to you first, Greg. What was your number 3 worst game of the year?
So I was actually surprised at how many bad games we ended up getting codes for this year, but it was definitely a tough pick between at least 4 of them that I put in this nomination overall. So there is one honorable mention that I'll be getting to later. But number 3 is probably the game that I would obviously most prefer to play out of the ones nominated, and that's the lawnmower simulator. So you do know how we really ragged on this and how you could like just destroy property and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't a thing for me, and I don't really like cutting the grass, and I don't know if I'd want to virtually cut grass with a lawnmower and start a lawnmowing company either. So yeah, that was my number 3 pick for the worst game, Lawnmower Simulator.
Right. Barry, number 3.
Lawnmower Simulator. Game is I destroyed that woman's property, and she did not do anything to me. She didn't come after me. She paid me to destroy her property. I mean, I owed fines, but it didn't matter. She still paid for it. The game is boring, and you had to cut like 98 or 99% before you could even finish a level. It's no, stay away. It is just a terrible game. It is garbage. And if you really, really, really love cutting lawns, then I guarantee you what you should do instead of playing this garbage game is go outside and actually do it and make money instead of spending money on this garbage. You will thank us later.
For my number 3 is a game that we also did talk about in a game chat, and that's kind of a it's a port remake, whatever. It's Wylands Nintendo Switch Edition, and wow. I thought I might enjoy this game, and this was a game that I just wanted to like. It's bad when it's just like I have to keep playing this because I need to play enough of it to actually have a decent chat with you guys in a game chat. That's the only reason I played as much as of this game as I did. I just wanted to pull my hair out the entire time. It was so annoying. It took me on this thing and wasted my time. And that was the big thing. It's got some decent mechanics. That's why it's number 3. It's not number 1 for me, but it's got some decent things there. But it was just a waste of time for me. And yeah, and then there's still a bunch of things that I couldn't understand, and it's confusing. And yeah, it's an awful game, and I had a horrible time with it. And it was number 3 for me. So back to you, Greg, for number 2.
All right, so might see a developing theme around like some of these games that are nominated here, and it's another simulator game, and that's Builder Simulator. So these don't really hit it for me, and like I know I struggled a lot just trying to figure out how to like do all this framing that you're seeing in the video that make it look so easy. It's actually not that simple, and you have to like be like perfectly lined up, and then you have to do all these different weighting things, and it's just something that, like as Steve just said with the Wylands, it's just I was pretty much forced to have to endure this and try to complete like at least a build there, like at least one full building just to get enough of it. So yeah, this was completely awful and definitely not something that I would recommend even to like my enemies, because this game was completely awful.
All right, number 2, Barry.
So I want to just point out this pattern here, that all these games thus far are games that Steve got us codes for. Just saying.
And
But
now
I'm going
are
to break
you?
that pattern.
I mean,
I'm gonna
some of these
break
other
that.
games that I've mentioned, that you're upset about getting codes for. I don't know. Like,
Exactly.
He doesn't get this good. He doesn't
But
get
I'm
his
going to break
codes for
that
the good
pattern.
games.
I'm breaking that pattern, Steve.
It's true. They're bad games that
Exactly.
I've given
You only
you.
get the codes for these. I'm breaking the pattern. Next one is not one that Steve got me a code for. The next one goes to Agnostico Origins, which is a Metroidvania that, if it ran well on the Switch, could potentially be a decent game. But I do not think the trailer footage that you're watching now is actually taken from the Switch. I think this is taken from Steam, because this runs at about 5 frames a second on Switch and it's just terrible. And I love Metroidvanias. And I saw this trailer and I said, "Ooh, this looks like potential good." It's got way overuse of the shadow effect that was done in Symphony of Night as well, which I guess everyone decided to try to copy. But man, does it overuse it as well. But that's besides the point. I can overlook that. It just runs like it's on Switch. Do not try this. Don't waste your time.
Monos now says, "Okay, now I'm Team Barry and Greg." I'm just going to take that you didn't jump ship for me, and now you're just team all of us. That's not what you said, but that's how I'm reading it. What I am going to do, though, in addition to that, is also jump on Team Greg for Builder Simulator being my number 2. Wow. Okay, if I wasted my time in Wylands, I really wasted my time in Builder Simulator. I didn't really want to build these things supposedly that I was supposed to build. I don't understand. Like, I don't even think the process of which of actually making these things was accurate. And then to look at the trailer and see like all the things that we were supposed to be able to do in this game, I'm like, where is that? I what I played was just junk. So yeah, I had a horrible time with Builder Simulator, and it's my number 2. Greg, any dishonorable mentions and your number 1?
Yeah, I had one dishonorable mention. It was your number 3 pick, the Wyland. So I do agree fully with all your comments, but I felt like the ones that I picked here were a bit more worse off, unfortunately. I could see like a few benefits of Wylands because it wasn't intended to be like the kind of disaster that we played, or at least I don't feel like that was the case. But yeah, so on to number 1, back to the simulator type games, and this was the Construction Simulator 4. So it kind of boggles my mind that there's already 4 of these, but you're already looking at the 4th edition of this, and it just is somehow managed to take everything that Builder Simulator did, but makes it even like worse because you're like full on like construction company and handling all that kind of stuff from a construction perspective, and everything looks really neat and stuff from the little cutscenes in the trailer. But I assure you that this game was also completely awful as well. So
I love that even in the trailer it says somewhere in Canada. It opens up. It's like, what? You highlighted that in the trailer. Oh, okay. Yeah. If you haven't checked out that game, chat, be sure to do so. Barry, any dishonorable mentions and your number 1?
Yeah. So Construction Simulator 4, which I did enjoy more than Building Simulator, but Building Simulator is also there. Wylands is there. But then I also threw in Car X Highway Racing. I know Steve enjoyed that game, but I'm sorry, that was one with dishonorable. High Water.
Yeah.
Connected Hearts, Full Moon Curse, and Fortune Play. And the four mystery box games: The Journey, Hidden Secrets, Evolution, and Escape the Room. All of these not good. And I also threw Dragon's Dogma 2 in there. I know it's not Switch, but boy, did that game disappoint me. So I just threw that in there for a dishonorable mention. So you're thinking, what could be worse than all those games? Well, I have the answer to you. And the answer is The Great Adventures of Ned Mapagmahalal, which is the worst name of a game ever. And on top of that, this is a platformer but using physics, and it's designed to kill you. It is literally designed for you to die, and it gives you a retry counter. And the trailer even highlights it as a bonus of how many times you are going to retry this terrible, terrible game. When I say this doesn't control well, that is an understatement. Like, this is one of those things where I would probably give to my worst enemy just to watch them suffer, because I had to suffer playing this, and it's bad. These levels, like, do you ever see those meme games where the levels are designed to kill you? Well, this is one of those games. It is designed to kill you and gives you the worst control possible. Like, if you really hate
Oh, no. Don't cut off in the middle of a rant. If you really hate, what's he going to say? What do you think? What do you think, Greg? If you really hate,
Memes and stuff. I don't know.
oh, maybe.
how bad it is. That's how bad. I was gonna say some things, and my computer's like, nope, we're gonna censor those.
So you were at, if you really hate,
Huh?
that's where we left off.
Oh, well, I'll put the G-rated version now because I don't.
Maybe that's why it did
if
cut
you
off.
really hate yourself, then play this game. But I'll that's the G-rated version.
Man, he's really going off. Yeah, his computer is like, let's not let this happen.
He nominated too many games. Cut him off.
That's right.
Even the G-rated version of my computer.
It's fantastic.
More about this game. Do
Man.
not. This game is the devil.
We're gonna probably go 3 hours on this episode, but it's worth it. Well, let's move on to my dishonorable mentions. Construction Simulator 4 was actually a dishonorable mention, not on my top 3. It wasn't horrible. I had some fun with the game. I don't think it was the fun that I was supposed to have with the game, but I did have a little bit of fun. The Connected Hearts games, though, were just bad, but they're on the list. Still a little challenge in there, but yeah, not enough to get up there in the worst games. I also put Uma Musume Purdy Derby Party Dash number 1 because it's horrible for me to pronounce, and that just gives it bad marks at the very beginning. But it was just not fun, except for the only redeeming factor that it has is that bonus game, and that's why it didn't end up in the top 3 for me. But if it wasn't for that bonus game, it may have moved into a number 3 for me. The chat is really funny tonight. They have a lot to work with, I'll tell you that. But number 3 or number 1 for me is a game that has already been mentioned, and that is Lawn Mowing Simulator. Man, there are a few things in the world that I would dislike doing more worse than mowing my lawn. In fact, it's a thing that I pride myself that I have not done in years because I keep renting and have amazing landlords that either take care of our grass for us or live in an apartment complex sometimes that there is no grass to mow. And it's been fantastic because I really don't like taking care of lawns. And some people do. But because I don't like taking care of a lawn, it is the last thing I want to do in a video game. And you know what's worse than taking care of a real lawn? Taking care of a digital lawn. And it's just so boring. And on top of that, like Barry has said, like, it's not even realistic at the least. Like, if you have not watched our game chat on Lawn Mowing Simulator, do yourself a favor. Go watch it after you finish this podcast. Listen to Barry's story, and you will thank me. It is so fun, but the game is horrible.
I cried in that game chat. I was laughing so hard that I cried. It's so bad.
It is really, really worse. And Ryan Anthony is saying he's trying to figure out what's worse, Lawn Mowing Simulator or Power Washing Simulator. We had Jakester actually did a a gameplay video on our channel and played Power Washer Simulator. He enjoyed it, and I think I would enjoy. I think it was that, or no, he was Firefighting Simulator. I think was what he did. I think I would enjoy Power Washing Simulator more than Lawnmower Simulator. In real life, I will control a power washer hands down more than I would a lawnmower for sure. That like absolutely give me some power and a water that was just gonna like knock like clean things and like blow things like yeah for sure. But mowing the lawn not so fun. Greg, any thoughts from the worst games of the year that we played?
Yeah, lots of titles shared across the board, obviously, with the Lawnmower Simulator and the other construction ones. I didn't really put like the Connected Hearts or Mystery Box stuff. I didn't think they were that awful to even try to even mention them by name, but I know you guys didn't really care for them at all because I actually completed both of the Connected Hearts games. But I don't know. It was just an interesting year that we had so many awful games that came out, and I think the bulk of them were codes that unfortunately Steve got for us. So
Just throw me under the bus. I see how it is. Barry, any thoughts?
Yeah, there were a lot of bad games this year, and we did game chats for a lot of them. And I wish I could get that time back.
It's true. Somehow
That's all I have to say.
somehow you still managed to play a lot of good games as well. But
I needed that. That was like a colon cleanse from these. Like for every builder simulator, I needed a 100-hour RPG. Like these were bad. Like and I'm just happy that I actually had some variety, so it wasn't just all simulator fest. But it really could have been. Although truth be told, I did have Connected Hearts and Mystery Box higher than the other simulators, simply because Mystery Box bored me to tears, and Connected Hearts haunted my dreams when you push pause and unpause and all the voices spoke at the same
that was weird.
time.
Yeah.
That was weird. That was bad coding. Plus, it like the slowdown.
Yeah.
Like it just
Yeah.
performance.
Well, and getting stuck and not being able to move on, like because I had a bug and then it just I can't move on in the game. It was, but there was still, there was a little bit of enjoyment until then. But it was, I mean, it was better than
and
Lawnmower Simulator.
the thing is the Connected Hearts has the breakout star of Alexa actually voicing a character, and that's novel. I think that might have been her first voice role, but the line delivery was very stilted.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't figured out yet, and this is your first game of the year episode, we go long on this episode because there's a lot to talk about. But we're gonna move on now from worst games and shift it back to our big category, our game of the year category, and this is our final category before we kind of tabulate everything and announce the overall winner. What was that?
I was saying our individual game of the year.
Yes.
First.
So we'll still go through and talk about our third, second, and first as we have been doing. And just to FYI, these are games that have already been mentioned previously in other categories. So we won't have a ton to say about each of them because of that. But these are our top Switch games of the year, taking into account first party, third party, indie games, all those put together. These are our third, second, and first from all of us. And we'll go to you first, Greg. What's your number 3?
all right. Well, I can imagine this might be the only time that this one will be between both of your guys' lists, but I actually put for number 3 as Cat Quest 3 because I just had so much fun with the game that I had, as I said earlier, that I bought the first 2, and then I'm even more looking forward to the upcoming 4th one. So I just enjoy this game way too much, and even as I said, I went back to play the extra content just to check it out. So it obviously left a lasting impression on me, and I consider myself a big fan of the series now. So that was why it made my number 3 overall.
Nice. Barry, how about your number 3?
My number 3 went to one of the remakes, and that was Tsukihime a piece of blue glass moon. Just when I say that this game took me by surprise, I mean this game took me by surprise. And if you've ever played visual novels, if you like that supernatural, like this is just one of those games that you need to experience, even knowing some of the reasons and the nuances in the game. um it doesn't matter. Like the story is just so good, the characters are so good, the surprises, the secrets, the things that aren't even said. It's just one of those experiences that can only be done and properly experienced in a video game form, and an actual novel would not do this the same type of justice. So definitely give this a shot because wow, what an experience.
Right. All right. Well, not my number 3 might surprise some people, and it's The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom for number 3 for me. Like I said earlier, it's a great game. I really enjoyed my time with it, and it's a fun game. It's not one of the best Zelda games, but it is really really good, and definitely deserves some credit. I know some people have mixed opinions on it, but I think overall people are enjoying it. And yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. Looking forward to eventually finishing it. Had lots of things in my life that have prevented me from going back. One of the things that I really enjoyed about Echoes of Wisdom that happened with the last couple of Zelda games as well is I went off and just explored for a long time, which is one of the other reasons why I haven't finished the game yet, because I just went off exploring every corner of Hyrule that I could. And when a game just can get lost in a game, I feel like that's really, really a good sign of it being a fun game. In addition to the path that they kind of want you to take to beat the game, there's enough to really enjoy that's apart from that main story. And yeah, really enjoyed it, but not quite number 2 or number 1 for me. So Zelda Echoes of Wisdom ends up in number 3 for me. So moving on to Greg for your number 2.
So before I reveal the title, I just wanted to at least put an asterisk here. So we did discuss that the remake version might not receive full points as normal games here. So this is why this is a number 2 as opposed to my number 1, where I probably would have actually had it. So number 2, I had put the Dragon Quest III HD 2D. So as I said, it's my favorite Dragon Quest game. I enjoyed it on the NES. I enjoyed like the mobile port that was added to Switch a few years ago that I had actually finally played earlier this year. And then without saying, I just absolutely enjoyed my time with it so far. And I already have like a number of videos recorded to try to upload my playthrough on my own channel at some point. So I already started capturing a number of different footage to everyone be out to look for. So that's my number 2 pick, which might have been my number 1 had we not had just like almost like a dishonorable nature towards it for being a repeat game, like a remake game.
All right. Barry, number 2.
There's nothing dishonorable about a remake game. My number 3 was a remake. My number 2 goes to Ys 10 Nordics. Just I I had high hopes, and this game exceeded those hopes, and that to me shocked me because I did enjoy Ys 9. I know some people didn't enjoy Ys 9 as much. I love the movement in Ys 9 especially, and Ys 10 doesn't pass the movements, but it feels so fluid. And from Ys 8, which is probably the best Ys game, where you're stuck on an island, to the freedom instead of being able to travel between islands, and just it's so good. Like, do yourself a favor, play this game. I hate that it's the 10th entry, and I still feel it needs people to get on soapboxes and scream like, play this game. It's just phenomenal.
Nice. My number 2 is a game that's, as unfortunately has maybe not sold as well as they wanted it to, and that's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Um, said a lot about this game earlier. I love action. I love the side-scrolling nature of it. It looks great. The Metroidvania kind of style of it as well. They did a really good job with the map system and having different moves and be able to combo moves and all this sort of thing just makes you feel pretty powerful in this game too. And being able to do that well in a side scroller is important. I think Metroid Dread was a great game that was able to capture that, and I think Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was also able to do that. And the fact that they have come up with this additional DLC and everything is phenomenal too. I wish more people would get this game and play it because the team needs to be honored for what they've done instead of unfortunately disbanded. So at least that's what we're hearing. So yeah, number 2 for me is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So going back to Greg for your number 1.
Yep. So as I was saying, if we not made a restriction on Remake getting less points in this category, then it would have these two picks would have been reversed. But number 1 is the Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. So I really like the Legend of Zelda series, and goes no surprise that I wouldn't have this towards the top of this kind of list, and really enjoyed with what I played so far. And as I previously stated, I want to go back and try to complete this game then, as with all the others in the series that I've done up to this point. So that's number 1, Echoes of Wisdom.
Nice. Barry, you're number 1 overall.
I think this might be the first year, either ever or in a long time, that my top 3 did not contain a game put out by Nintendo. My number 1 goes to The Legend of Heroes: Trails Through Daybreak. It just blew me away in every way, and I've been hearing about this game for so long because Japan got it first, and I heard nothing but good things. Can't wait till you go to Calvard. Go to Calvard. Go to Calvard. Finally went to Calvard, and I really, really loved it. So if you just, again, this is absolutely a great starting point. There are many of them in the Trails of series, but if you just want a fun, good RPG that does have stakes, but not the grandiose stakes of Cold Steel 4 or Reverie, or even Cold Steel 2 for that matter, then absolutely give this game a try. Just there's this demo again, play it. It's just so good.
Nice. Well, that leads me to my number 1 pick, and I did not necessarily see this coming as I was putting together my list and thinking back through the games that I had played this year. I didn't anticipate a Zelda game being number 3 for me. I didn't think. I mean, I played Prince of Persia: Lost Crown very beginning of the year. Thought man, this is holding strong. Here we are in December, and I still think it's number 2. That's a great game. And number 1 actually goes to a game that Greg and Barry are upset about me and that's Bo Path of the Teal Lotus. Yeah, an indie game is number 1 for me this year, but it just does such a good job. I am an action platformer person. That is my go-to traditional game genre, and when I can get my hands on a solid game, I'm going to praise it, and that's exactly what this game is. It is a solid action platformer that is beautiful, but also gives some really fun moves and ways to chain it together. It also kind of combo kind of stuff that the Prince of Persia does as well, but also brings in the cultural stuff into the game as well, with with all that influence. And it's just a really fun game. It looks great. It entertained me the whole way through. It challenged me in good ways, but it wasn't overwhelming. And yeah, highly recommend Bow Path of the Teal Lotus. And kind of shocked, guys, that an indie game ended up being my number one overall pick for 2024. So yeah, any thoughts in the chat or the community that we have not mentioned yet?
Let's see. Kajimi said that she enjoyed or loved exploring in Echoes of Wisdom, and Jesse Glenn has been playing a lot of 2 Point Hospital, and we recommend this game as a Sims game.
Nice. Yeah, I know you'd mentioned in the chat as well that you explored the whole map for the second dungeon. Yeah, same.
Yep.
Like, it was so fun to just keep exploring. Yeah. Greg, any thoughts on overall, like what we picked? Was it surprising to? I mean, we have a lot of variation in our overall picks this year.
Yeah, it certainly was. And as I stated, if we weren't going to like kind of rip down on remakes and stuff and honor less than full points, then mine would have changed. Like the order would have changed. But yeah, definitely a very varying year of lots of high quality games and even high quality ports, and the indies really represented. Like I had a lot of indies, and I had an indie in my top list as well, and I was struggling to try to put it above Echoes of Wisdom, but yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I guess if Cat Quest 3 was maybe like a little bit longer and not quite as quick, where like as Barry said, he could like 100% it in like an evening, then it might have had a little bit more staying power. But it's just kind of the nature of the somewhat lower budget games, and yeah.
I actually needed to check a couple times. I was like, wait, what is the price of Bow? Like, is it, oh my gosh, it is an indie. And I knew Cat Quest 3 was, but yeah, it was kind of shocking, and sorry that I haven't gotten you guys codes yet.
You should send them this video and say, look, could we do a proper game chat? I gave you my favorite game of the year, but we can't do a proper game chat unless we all have codes.
That's true.
So
yeah. Barry, were you surprised at the variation here? Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, I knew when we were talking, I said to you guys that I don't think my list is going to do anything to disrupt what you guys pick, because I knew I was going into this with nominating a non-Nintendo game for Game of the Year and not putting Nintendo there at all. So I figured whatever we collectively group is going to be between you two, whatever you guys pick, because I have different tastes, and I knew that this was a year that Nintendo still gave us 11 great games. Half of them were remakes or ports, and of that, it felt very much like a last year, or a year that would have had a successor system out, and this was stuff to keep Switch owners happy. And that's not saying anything bad. They were great games, a lot of fun, but I did have more fun with third-party titles. And granted, two of those that I picked were series that I already loved, but one of them was a complete surprise and came out of nowhere and beat out a Zelda game. And if it beat out a Zelda game for me, that tells you the quality of the game. So let that speak truth. It was a fantastic year overall. I think we all win. I think as gamers we all win. And again, these are our picks. You could be like, oh, this one was a disappointment to me, or oh, you didn't talk about this game, and this game was so much better. Maybe we didn't play it, or maybe we just didn't like it, but that's fine. It's all subjective. So all we could do is hope that you listen to what we say, and hopefully you find a game that maybe you didn't hear about and say, well, I'll give it a shot now. And if there's a game that we didn't mention and you really feel strongly about it, tell us. Maybe we didn't even know about it. Maybe we should give it a shot. I mean, we are all gamers here, and we all just like to have fun, and there's just a really good selection of games this year.
Yep. I think probably there's only been 2 games ever, or like, well, not 2 games ever, because you had 3 games this year that topped Zelda, but one other year that's topped a Zelda game, and that was Xenoblade.
Yeah.
So
only once.
there's a small
No.
grouping of games that have
Yeah.
topped Zelda.
I think it was Link's Awakening too, because Tears of the Kingdom won for me because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed was a smaller game, and Xenoblade 3 didn't have any Zelda. And Xenoblade 2 would have beaten Zelda had I more than 3 days to play it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, at this point, really all that was left for me to do is put some points together and then stare at my computer screen for a while going, well, how am I going to do this? Because, wow, there were so many ties this year for points. So how we do points for this is our overall winners. The first place gets 3 points. The second place gets 2 points. And the third place gets 1 point. So it's reversed. So we still have the most points is what will determine our overall picks, kind of average between the three of us and all this sort of thing. So in the overall picks, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different games that were mentioned between the three of us for our overall picks for first, second, and third. 8 different games. So just a couple repeats in there. And so
one.
just one repeat.
One repeat.
And you know what? If you're doing math in your head, yeah, you can figure out ahead of time. That's what probably determined what happens here. So I'll go from third place, which was a tie between 3 different games that all 3 got 2 points. But as we do this, if the game's been mentioned on other lists, then it will get higher points as well. And because we said remakes and ports get less weight, that rose Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown to number 3. So number 3 overall game is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Number 2 was a solid tie that we have no way of breaking this tie. It is a solid tie. There was no other way of doing it. So instead of trying to figure out some other way, it was just number 2. I decided, let's go ahead and give it a tie this year. So we have a tie for number 2, a solid tie between The Legend of Heroes and Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus. So number 2, a tie between those 2 games, which does leave us for our number 1 overall game is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, because it did appear twice as my number 3 and Greg's number 1, which gave it a total of 4 points. 4 points to claim the number 1 spot. That's all it took this year, because it was 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s across the board from our 8 different picks of our overall game. So, Greg, what do you think of this year's overall pick between the 3 of us?
Well, that's why it helped it win, because had I not gone through with how I demoting points from remake games, where I would have had Dragon Quest III as the number 1 overall, so I feel like it was my contribution that gave it this actual win, because it would have been like a multiple weight tie for first, and then you would have had no idea how to handle it. So I don't know how else. I mean, I guess it would have still technically won, as it was at your number 3, and it would have been my number 2. But like I don't know. Like, it just makes things a little bit easier to have a straight up winner this way. But I don't know. I obviously, like I said, I cheesed the system because of the remake getting less points. But
yeah. Barry, what's your thoughts on how this all unfolded?
I think Greg should have went with his original thing, and then we would have had a 3-way tie for first, and I think that would have been fantastic, and it would have really spoken out to this year, the way this was. And this is my favorite type of year, and I've said this before, where we have 8 out of 9 potential slots be different games. That's if someone just listens to that, that's 8 fantastic games that you can go and check out. 8 out of a potential 9. That is way more exciting to me, where we go, well, all of us third place is Mario this, and all of us second place is, Kirby this, and all of us first place is Zelda this. And it's like, we're just echoing each other. It's that, to me, that's not as exciting. So a year like this triumphs because of the diversity and the amount of stellar games. So I think we all win clearly as gamers, and I think that you, Steve, seeing our results. Now I don't know, have no idea what Greg did, and Greg had no idea what I did, but you knew.
Mhm.
So you could have taken Zelda off your list and put another number 3 and really made this a full potluck year. But you didn't do that.
Nope.
And I think you might have originally done that, but you said, I don't want to do the math. I'm going to do this just to appease myself. And that's a cheap answer. And if you did that, I'm shame on you. But
I did not. I did not
yeah,
change my list. The only thing I did, I will say, like, I added some games that to my honorable mentions after I looked at your guys'
yeah,
list, because I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that game.
yeah.
But honestly, we all did that as we were like even chatting here. Like, oh yeah, Barry mentioned that. Oh yeah, Steve mentioned that. But yes, I put my list together, and then I put them all together. So yeah. Yeah, it was it's an interesting year. I'm Greg, for my sake, and like, it was already confusing enough to figure out first or second and third. I'm glad that you didn't do that, because I would have had to do more math and figuring out how this would all work out. So I'm glad that first place was an easy choice, for
Greg, just
my
remember,
sake.
he didn't get us codes for everything. So just
I
think
know.
about that. Think about that. You
Don't
should have
take
made him
this
do more math.
encouragement. Remember the bad stuff.
He got us Lawnmower Simulator. That was his worst game of the year.
Yeah, he did. And he gave you Building Simulator and Construction Simulator too.
You know what? For just for all this, I'm not going to be on the next episode.
That was already
Good,
predetermined.
good.
That
We don't
is
want
true.
you, Simulator.
Oh boy. Yeah, so if you haven't done so yet, please let us know all your picks and your thoughts on games of the year as well. Yeah, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we would love to hear about that. Let us know on social media. Let us know on the comments. Let us know in our Discord as well. Before we wrap up this episode, just kind of overall thoughts about games, but also as you guys think about 2025, what are you hoping for? We're going to do a predictions episode in a couple episodes when we come back in January, but what do you think about, like, thinking through 2024, what we know about 2025? Will it compare? What do you think, Greg?
It's certainly going to be interesting because it seems very, very likely that the Switch 2 will be out for next year. I'd be honestly very surprised if it's not. But so that also makes it an interesting point, because we do have Metroid Prime 4, which right now would be the obvious front runner, but we obviously don't even know what the rest of the year is stacked with. But so looking ahead, it seems like it should be a pretty interesting year, depending on what kind of launch games are coming out. Like, are we getting a new 3D Mario? Is there going to be a new Mario Kart, or like what's exactly going on here? And we're not really going to know until all the beans are spilled on the Switch successor. So hopefully that is sooner than later, but it's pretty much within the first 3 months of next year they'll be finding that kind of stuff out.
Yeah. Barry, how about you?
All I have to say is next year we have Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. So yes, it's going to be a better year. Just if
You
those are the
forgot
only
Donkey
3
Kong.
games released. At least at
Donkey
Donkey
Kong.
Kong 2, especially from Nintendo. Yeah, especially from Nintendo. I think next year there's a lot of unknowns. And this year there was a lot of unknowns, right? We came into this year and we knew Luigi's Mansion 2, Princess Peach, and another code. That was it. We knew 3 games. And we wound up getting 11 games from Nintendo. So that right there is 8 games we did not know about. And that also includes Donkey Kong, Pokemon Legends, and Xenoblade X, which were announced this year that we also didn't know existed. So going into next year, we know of 4 games on the Switch. 2 of them, most likely, Metroid Prime and Pokemon, will be also on the Switch too. We know that they have to have games for the launch of the Switch too. And this year was very telling. You can tell their A team was not releasing games this year. These were remakes of older games. These were B teams working on games, or third party or second party working, like Legend of Zelda was not the main team; it was
Mhm.
Grezzo, you know. And I think even Xenoblade X next year is not the main team, but I think next year what we're going to see is we're going to see a stellar launch year for the Switch 2. I think we're going to see a very good, strong Switch year of remakes and ports. And I think we're all going to have a fantastic year of gaming. And that has nothing to say about third parties. We know Trails Through Daybreak #2 is coming out next year. So I already have that to look forward to. There's a ton of other great games coming out next year from a lot of acclaimed studios, a lot of great studios. And Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remakes are coming out next year. You got the new Don't Nod game, which isn't coming to
Mhm.
Switch right now, but maybe Switch 2 is coming out next year. There's so many titles that we don't know about, and there's so many that we do. So just if you use this winter to relax and play through the best of 2023, maybe some of the games we talked about, and prepare, because I think 2024 or 2023, I said, I'm Steve, time travel. The games of 2024, and then 2025 is gonna be just absolute killer.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe this year, like Jakester in chat said earlier, maybe you've spent a lot of time playing games from previous years. That could definitely happen this year, because there's been so many games in the last few years that have been phenomenal. There's no way to play them all, and so we're going to keep getting more and more great games this next year. Just as before we jump into talking about what's coming out over the next couple of weeks and what we're going to be playing, just a programming note in here so you guys know what to expect. We're going to try to do one more episode before our winter holiday break. And yes, that will be Barry and Greg without me. So hopefully all that will work well and make that happen. And that would be in just 2 weeks. And then we'll be back after a few weeks, back in January on, I believe, January, what is it? I should have said 17th. No, 14th, January 14th. We'll be coming back for our predictions episode. So that's always another fun episode. So we look back at the predictions for 2024, and I'm already dreading one that I should have changed that I wanted to, because I've talked about it all year long. And we'll see how well we did in our 2024 predictions. Then we'll look ahead at our 2025 predictions as well. So that'd be a fun episode. But let's look ahead at the next couple weeks. And as always, scrolling on the screen from Metacritic, looking at the games that are coming out over the next couple weeks. Will be on the video version, but I'll go ahead and just to talk about a few games that kind of stood out to me as I was looking at the list. December 5th is a big day. Fantasian, Neo Dimension, Symphonia, Fitness Boxing 3, Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic is coming to Switch as well on December 5th. And then December 10th is Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. December 12th is ACA Neo Geo Selection Volumes 1 and 2 are both dropping on December 12th, as well as Hidden Cats in Santa's Realm. I thought that was a good game to follow the cat-themed games that we've been getting recently. And then December 13th, we're getting Fairy Tale 2. And then just looking ahead just a little bit more is January 16th. Don't forget that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is coming to Switch again on January 16th. So, Barry, what are you going to be playing over the next couple weeks?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to catching up on some of the releases that I didn't get a chance to fully play, like Romancing Saga 2, the remake, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, Lego Horizon Adventures. But I needed a little break from like the bigger RPGs, Dragon Ball as well, Sparking Zero. I want to play, but I needed a break from the RPGs. I just did Dragon Quest 3. I did Mario and Luigi. So I've been working on usually like in the wintertime, I'll pick a series and just do a little marathon of. Last year I did a lot of Final Fantasy stuff. And this year I'm doing Castlevania stuff. So I went to the Castlevania Advanced Collection and already did the first 2 games, Circle of the Moon and Harmony of Dissonance. And I've been doing Vampire Survivors, Ode to Castlevania as well. So I'm planning to do some more Castlevania stuff and maybe dabble in some Contra stuff as well. Just easier, quicker games to play through, and nice little breather going into the new year and seeing what happens.
Nice. Greg, how about you?
Yeah, I'm currently in that RPG depths there because I got Brothership to continue working through there, and along with Dragon Quest 3. So I've been kind of switching back and forth a little bit between those, as they're both excellent games. And then, as I previously stated, I still need to go back to Echoes of Wisdom. If I were to do something like Barry and do like a theme, I would definitely try to hit Donkey Kong, because I've never played the Donkey Kong Land games, and all 3 of them there are now on NSO. I've actually never even fully beat the first Donkey Kong Country on SNES, or the third one on SNES as well. I've only done Diddy Kong's Quest. That's like one of my favorite games of all time. And then I actually never even finished Tropical Freeze either, so I would easily could do a Donkey Kong platforming marathon at some point, because there's so many games in that series I've never fully either played or even finished. So that's unfortunately more of like a caveat, and I probably won't be able to dive into all those over the short break. So those RPG games just take tons and tons of hours.
Yeah, that's true, which is why I don't usually play much of them. But yeah, we've had a couple of game chats that games that I've not even touched, so I'm hoping to play some of those. We can actually get those done, and I can maybe make an appearance in those. If not, it's going to be you guys. But we'll see if we can get those done. And then I need to get back to Echoes of Wisdom, actually finish the game. I wanna get a little bit further in Prince of Persia, so I can actually play the DLC as well. But yeah, I think over holidays it's gonna be a lot of Jackbox. That usually tends to happen when we get together with the family. And maybe we'll surprise Barry when I come back in January, and I'll maybe have actually finally booted up my Wii U and play a little more of Xenoblade X. We'll see if we can make him happy. But yeah, a game that I'm hoping to play the rest of it and finish the game is Life is Strange, the new one, and actually hopefully maybe complete that over the break as well.
Did you start that yet?
The demo, yeah. So yeah.
Oh, just the demo.
Yeah. So, because I was still deciding like what system, and I was like, hey, Xbox has got a demo, so I'm just going to go ahead and download that and play it on there. And then I think I figured out that if I buy it on Xbox, I can still play it on my PC. I think by signing into that account. So I think that's the best of both worlds. So that might be the direction I ended up going. I gotta test it out. I'm testing it out with the demo right now, and because I first got it on the Xbox, and then I think I can get on there. So we'll see. But and then Mo Knows said in the chat that he's upset we're not playing Border Police Contraband Simulator. So that might be the next one. We'll see. We'll see what other simulators.
Steve, you have a new assignment. Should you choose to accept it?
We'll see if Greg's worst of 2025 list will include all simulators again.
Hey, you know what? We need worst games for 2025 game of the year. So Steve, we count December. So start cracking now. You need to give us some shitty games. I need to populate that list. We need at least 3 shitty games to talk about.
There's more mystery boxes game, right? They made 4 of those, and
yeah.
Yeah, let's not talk about that, how he got us those codes and then didn't even play them, so he wasn't part of the game chat. It was just you and I, Greg. He gives us these crappy games, and then purposely, I didn't have time to play them. You guys do the game chats without me.
Was I not a part of the mystery games ones? I thought I was.
I
played them.
Part of that one.
I don't know.
You might have only played like the first one, but I know Greg and I played them all.
Yeah, since then I've played them all. I know for sure. then yeah, they were all not great. But yeah, I can't remember. I don't know how long we've went on this episode because we are in 2 parts. Since I accidentally hit the button earlier to end it, but I'm sure we're either at 3 hours or over 3 hours. So we should probably call it a quits for episode 304. We're going to go 3 hours and 4 minutes for episode 304. But as I said earlier, we're going to try to be back with one more episode before our holiday break. And then that episode is going to be on December 17th. And then we'll take a little bit of a break and then come back for the new year on January 14th. But thank you guys so much for being here for our Game of the Year 2024 edition. Any final thoughts there, Barry?
Yeah, I actually went and I checked the game chat of mystery boxes. You were not on there, Steve.
Oh.
You were not. Greg and I suffered that one alone. I'm sorry. Don't try to insert yourself in here. No sympathy. You did not. The document's there. And that one was not deleted by like what kudzu was. You know, it didn't mysteriously vanish off of your computer. You can't erase the evidence. We know it, Steve. We see how it works.
Well, I played them and they were bad. So
yeah, at least he went back to play them. So
that's actually true. I am surprised at myself after recording your game chat. I still went back to play those games and still suffered through them.
Oh, you poor man.
Yes. Other games I've been like, no, they played it, thought it was bad. Why play it? But apparently I decided to suffer through it this time. Well, thank you guys again so much. It's been a great episode, entertaining episode. Hopefully it was for you guys too. We enjoy ourselves. Hopefully you guys did too. If you are new to the podcast, normally we don't go this long. And also be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share this with other Nintendo gamers that you know. Follow us on social media. Head over to our Discord. Let us know your thoughts on all these different games, what you thought of games in 2024, and we will catch you next time on the NintendoFuse Podcast. But until then, happy gaming, everybody.
Have a good one.
See you next time.